Hello, everybody. Happy Thursday. So, relaxed day today. Um, Actually, a heat wave is coming through. Sunny. Okay, who do we got here? Ross. Welcome. Do you know how to say hi first before you in, Dale? Welcome, and let's be respectful, please. Have you been following since the beginning? Tim. Because you don't say hello, you just put up the comments. That's all you do. I don't even know how long you've been following. Well, please be respectful, or my mod will block you. So, Tim, Ann will be in a little late. She has a doctor appointment. Lucy will be listening from work. Spas, are you listening? We got another video from everybody's favorite, but we're gonna wait till the second hour to do that hour and a half. Are you gonna respond, Ross? Hello? So I'm gonna go ahead and get going on Intel, everybody. So I'm early, but I got a lot of stuff I want to get out. Okay. Let's do. Excuse me.
Where there are clashes taking place right now, live pictures. Protesters are clashing with what appears to be ICE agents, and it appears that the protesters are trying to enter a federal building, and they are.
Well, right now, these images obviously are police officers are surrounding and keeping. Officers are keeping them on the ground. John?
Yeah, we will keep an eye on this. But clearly, a heated clash here. And this has been a concern all along. Minneapolis and St. Paul, right across the river, have been a bit of a powder keg. So we know that, of course, is where George Floyd was killed in 2020. It's, there's been ICE operations stepped up in recent weeks. The Trump administration has really levied accusations about fraud, singling out the Somali community in recent days. And now we are seeing these significant protests the day after the shooting of a woman in her car. John Sandwig, as we keep an eye on these images, I wanted to ask you to take a step back, not about this specific incident, but you're a former acting ICE director. There's been questions raised this morning about the training, about the readiness of ICE agents and Border Patrol agents who are used to doing very different operations along the border as opposed to urban areas.
I came out a little bit early.
Do you have worries that these men and women simply aren't prepared to do the job they've been asked to do?
Absolutely. I have very strong concerns about what we're doing tactically. We've put ICE officers in the position to do things they weren't trained to do. They're not part of their core mission. We pulled U.S. Border Patrol agents who are trained to interdict individuals in remote areas where the rules of engagement are the same, but the threats they face are so radically different. And we put them up in urban areas like Minneapolis. And really, these videos that we're seeing now are very concerning to me because it's ICE and Border Patrol agents who just have no training and experience in doing crowd control or public order policing, who are now, which is delicate, but also they're the target themselves of the protesters' ire. That's, it just has a tendency to inflame the situation and escalate. I feel like the administration, Listen, I think that you could have taken a position where here we want to de-escalate this situation, issue the proper statement, have the secretary say there will be a full investigation, we'll get maximum transparency, lower the profile of the agency in the city itself. Unfortunately, I think it seems like the administration wants to steer the other way. The secretary herself returned to Minneapolis, doubled down on the defense of both the operation itself, but also what happened with the shooting. All of that is not about de-escalation, but rather the opposite. It seems it's going to just further tensions, and I'm worried about what's going to happen in the coming days.
Well, and this right here, these live pictures that we're looking at out of St. Paul, this is exactly what the governor and governors and mayors across the country have been warning about. This type of tension between ICE and the community. ICE, that many would argue, are not trained well enough in general, armed, and not trained to deal with these specific communities, not in sync with the local police and with local officials, with no connectivity and no communication about exactly what they're doing to, quote, make America safer. And then you have the community here worried about their friends and neighbors, rightfully so. After people are being disappeared across the country, people are being hurt, people are being separated from their families, whether illegal, going through the process, or American citizens. It's happening to all types of people who are in this country. There is fear, there is anger. And now, after yesterday, one could argue there's no question there's chaos. Tell folks what we're looking at here.
I don't know what station that was. Sorry, you guys. Yeah, Lucy, that was just the first one. Can you guys address to say hi to Ross? Last couple of days, that's all he's been putting in links and he stopped. So I don't know who he is. He doesn't say nothing. Keep an eye out for him, Lucy, till Kay gets in here. Another 8 minutes.
January 2026. Yesterday
good,
on
right?
the morning of January 7th, 2026, our Julian Christmas and 0 day on the cue
Yeah, it's just that name
on
up
the
there on
Julian.
top.
We're about to look at that.
Speaking.
We had Renee Nicole Good apparently try to use her vehicle to cause harm to federal ICE agents. She was then fired upon and died in her vehicle, I do believe.
Jordan, Happy New Year. It's been a while.
A 37-year-old woman was shot and killed by an ICE agent in Minneapolis on Wednesday. Here's how it unfolded. CNN reviewed video of 3 angles of the shooting. The woman first can be seen in her car waving her hand out the window as 2 federal officers in a truck pull up. They then begin to approach the woman on the driver's side, telling her to get out of the car. At the same time this interaction is unfolding, a third officer, who would soon shoot the driver, can be seen walking from the opposite side of the vehicle. That officer draws his pistol as the car first reverses and then begins to move forward. He then fires multiple shots. Another angle seems to show the car making contact with the officer before he fired his gun. The car then accelerates and crashes into a nearby car.
Jordan, yep.
After the shooting, neighbors asked to administer aid, shouting at the federal agents.
That's cool, guys.
Where are they? Where are they? How can I relax? You just killed my neighbor.
Okay, so without trying to
Kay should be in shortly.
Draw too many conclusions upon that, let me just take you to the drops and to the clock, and you can make your own determination. First, I wanted to highlight Whamma Jamma and Leah's Nuggets for pointing that the Minneapolis, Minnesota incident we just viewed yesterday feels a lot like George Floyd, Minneapolis police involved incident, use of force, kicked off many riots. And I just wonder if this event here was designed to do the same thing. A snippet from that article we were just watching shows us just that it happened on Wednesday, 1/7. And when you compare her name, Renee Good, what makes a movie good, great actors, that came from January 4th. So it's a 3-day difference on that delta. But on the clock, you see from minute 28 that this comes from. Remember that marker 28. But on the clock, you mirror the clock because the clock's intended to be done in 30 days, half of the clock. You mirror that and you see that our Julian marker, we were actually on 0, 2 days apart. So we were a clock match for Q461, which makes a movie good in all caps. Renee Nicole Good. Right? There's another way if you want to do this, take the Julian marker of this event, it would be 13 days back, marker 15. right? This Julian marker was actually December 22nd, 2017 from marker 15, 13 days back. Here, Q posted from 28. The Julian date is minus 13 days equals marker 15. Oops. And where were we yesterday during the event? Marker 13. See, so we're 2 days apart from the Julian marker 15. Or you take the mirror and we're 2 days apart from the mirror on our Julian marker from yesterday. So it all, it's a circle. It's the magic of numerals. So let's look at Renee Good, 88 in simple. Now look where Q88 came from. I cut off the drop number. This is Q88, but it came from that same marker 28 that we were just looking at, right? Where the movie Good came from. So did drop 88. This is Q clock stuff. Look, the same clock I just showed you. But Q88 says 10 days darkness. Now, why does that match? Well, because when the Anon asked in drop 370, hey, Q, what happened on 12/7? Q said the clock started 10 days. You look at that 12/7/17 marker, and it's right there at the 0 where the clock started for 10 days. And where were we yesterday? Right there at the 0. There's this same 12/7/17. What happened on that day? So we have her gematria of 88 pointing to Q88, 10 days darkness, scare tactics. See, that's what we have here. D's falling, R's walk away, removed. Disinformation is real. Distractions are necessary. This is what we're talking about here. And it totally lines up on the clock. Renee Good, 88. Marker matches on the clock for what makes a movie good. Great actors.
Just about over.
We also were a Delta match from Jan 7, Q22, 2663. Program developed ongoing under offshore, not domestic tangent agency, covert funding.
Sorry,
This
Carol.
is MK Ultra stuff. Animals to humans in 1988, 71% average success rate. Mental institutions and therapists, program specialists, cocktail regimen, 4 times daily brain intercept. WIA military personnel targets of the program, PTSD plus, clandestine black ops, zero affiliation, non-stick, something out of a movie, fiction, the hole is deep, Q. Love you.
So was that one good? I Am is a pretty good one.
Clearly wanted her out of there because she was the main car leading the protest, is my understanding. I talked to another guy who was driving behind her, but she was very successful in blocking traffic. She was doing what she was set out to do, and so they wanted to get her the hell out of there. Yeah.
So it looked like she was impeding ICE vehicles.
Definitely, yeah, that was her goal.
There you have it.
just overturned a unanimous jury verdict to save a Somali man who stole $7.2 million from the taxpayer. And you won't believe where that money was going. Meanwhile, Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnson, he goes on live television and says, we can't incarcerate criminals because that's racist. Yeah, just days after a career criminal was freed and set a woman on fire. The judge behind it openly admits she judges cases based on skin color. Wait until you see this video. And since it's Thanksgiving week, well, I've got a bonus clip that's pure gold. President Trump serving up a platter of comedy so good, even the turkeys are laughing. I've watched it a few times. Trust me, you're going to want to see this one. Now, before we dive into all of that, a quick announcement in case you missed it. The Carrie Lane Show store is live. So start your holiday shopping early with mugs, hats, shirts, whatever the family wants. And because you all are so amazing, you can snag 15% off with the code Carrie15 at checkout. Links and the code are down below in the description, so you won't miss out. All right, go get your goodies, and enough of that. The first story, absolute insanity. Somalis in Minnesota just got caught running a massive fraud ring scheme. But it gets even weirder. The fraud is so extreme that Donald Trump has terminated deportation protection for Somali nationals living in Minnesota. And here's the kicker. A jury just found a Somali man guilty of stealing $7.2 million from taxpayers through fake Medicaid billing. That should have been the end of it, right? Wrong. A liberal Minnesota judge stepped in and completely overturned the verdict, acquitting him of all charges.
At the August trial for Abdi Fattah Yusuf, the jury heard evidence that he ran his home health care company, Promise Health, out of a mailbox at a Central Avenue address where multiple other home health care companies were supposedly located. Yusuf and his wife, Lol Ahmed, were charged with stealing $7.2 million of taxpayer money through Medicaid overbilling in a personal care assistant or PCA scam. The couple allegedly spent tens of thousands of the fraud money on luxury items for themselves. Despite the jury swiftly convicting Yusuf, Judge Sarah West last week decided they got it wrong.
You think you're shocked? Listen to one of the jurors who actually decided this case.
I am shocked. I'm shocked based off of all of the evidence that was presented to us and the obvious guilt that we saw based off of the said evidence. It was not a difficult decision whatsoever. The deliberation took probably 4 hours at most. Based off of the state's evidence that was presented, I was beyond a reasonable doubt.
Tell me this ruling is not going to hold up. Now, the AG's office, they've already filed an appeal, which means the Minnesota Court of Appeals will review this, which could take months. And while that drags on, U.S. Congresswoman Ilhan Omar, she's openly admitting her allegiance is not with the United States of America.
Waan ahay gabar Mareykanka laga doortay oo Kongreska Mareykanka ku jirto. Laakiin waxaan ahay gabar Soomaaliyeed, gabar idinku jinsi ah, gabar idinku af ah, gabar idinku diin ah, oo hadde qof iyadoo da'yar waddankeedii laga kaxeeyay wili xiise u qabto in maalin waddankeedii ay ku noolaato oo dadkeedii wax ay la wadaagto.
Okay, whatever.
Marka alxamdulilah waxaan rajaynayaa aniga iyo ilmahayga in aan hadde ku barbaariyo iyagana ilmahooda ay ku barbaariyaan dhulkii aniga aan ku soo koray. Taasna haddii ay suurtagelayso waa hadde shaqo badan inaan wada qabanaa hadduu Ilaahay yiraahdo.
I guarantee you she's the ringleader in a lot of this. I mean, she openly admits she doesn't see herself as American at all, but as Somali, and actually says she wants to move back home to raise her kids there. So tell me, how on earth are we letting someone who rejects America represent the very people she refuses to call her own? And it doesn't stop there. Hold on to your turn.
Okay, that's the first one. Got another one here. Oh.
In this country. This is the consequence of letting a culture that is built on corruption, violence, and piracy take root on American soil. And now, tragically, the next generation of Somali Americans is picking up the same destructive habits right here at home. They're already the most welfare-dependent immigrant group in the U.S., and they've been caught stealing $300 million in COVID relief funding that was meant for hungry children. Now, their latest scheme targets Minnesota's Medicaid Housing Stabilization Services program, which is supposed to help seniors and addicts find housing. But the program's rules were so loose that fraud exploded. Take a look at this. Costs went from 2.6 million in 2020 to 104 million in 2024. Already this year, they're at 61 million in just 6 months, meaning they're on track to hit $122 million if that trend continues. And why? Because 6 people are accused of defrauding HSS, and they're all members of the Somali community. But this just gets worse. Watch this.
If we take a look at Minnesota's federally funded autism program. Now, several people, and this is an example, a woman in the Somali community are co-conspirators, and they're accused of recruiting kids for autism therapy. They brought in families, had them convinced to get their kids diagnosed as autistic. In fact, these families ultimately ended up having various social services bid for their children, competing with the number of size of check that they would get. It didn't matter if the kids had autism. And what happened? Autism claims to Medicaid surged. In 2018, $3 million. By 2023, listen here, from $3 million to $400 million. Autism providers jumped from 41 to 328 in 5 years. Now, City Journal reports that the Somali fraud rings send a lot of money back to Somalia. 40% of households in Somalia get remittances from abroad. That totals $1.7 billion. That is more than the entire budget of the Somali government. Money being sent abroad, from abroad, back to Somalia. Where is that money going? Take a look at this. Most alarmingly, a lot of that money is funneled through money traders, and in the end, ends up in the hands of al-Qaeda-linked Islamic terror group Al-Shabaab. So to bring this full circle, the Minnesota taxpayers are funneling money through fraudulent autism claims back to Somalia, where that money lands in the accounts of Al-Shabaab.
We are importing people from other countries who openly despise us, and they're shamelessly exploiting our generosity, our kindness, our willingness even to help at every turn. And then what do? They scam, rob, and they defraud us without hesitation or remorse. These people, as Ilhan Omar herself has made crystal clear, are not here because they love America or want the American dream or even cherish our way of life. No. They're here to funnel wealth back to their homeland while actively undermining and sabotaging ours. And watch this. As we saw previously, when speaking in front of her own community, Ilhan Omar says she wants to go back to Somalia. But when speaking to Americans, she says this.
Somalis are not terrorizing this nation. We are helping it thrive. Somalis have always seen themselves as a fabric of this nation. So not only are we not going anywhere,
every major Somali fraud.
Okay, that was 2 of her so far. Next one is a 4-minute.
Say.
Well, it's a real honor, and I look forward to the conversation.
So just to start out, we've seen thousands of loans being taken out in Minnesota, specifically totaling up to $400 million. These were pandemic era PPP, EIDL loans as well. Can you tell us about what your reaction was when you were going through this investigation, seeing this firsthand?
Well, first of all, at the SBA, it is truly a new day under the Trump administration. So we came in, immediately got to fraud, and we knew that there was about potentially $200 billion worth of in the former PPP EIDL programs. Well, when the Minnesota fraud came to light, we immediately got to work, drilled down on Minnesota specifically, found thousands and thousands of loans that were flagged as fraudulent. We went in, blocked 7,000 people from ever doing business again with the SBA. Those loans totaled $430 million, and now we're sending those files over to federal law enforcement for prosecution.
So these are PPP loans. These are pandemic era loans, EIDL loans. Is this different from what we're seeing in Minnesota as uncovered recently by independent journalist Nick Shirley? Are you going to be looking into that as well, as far as those Somali daycare centers and all that?
Well, this is all part of what appears to be virtually an organized crime ring. I mean, when you look at the depth of crime and the scale and how long it's been going on. This is all part of a program to defraud the federal government and steal taxpayer dollars from hardworking Americans. So it's just part and parcel of what's going on. PPP was not part of our welfare program, that the $1 trillion that the federal government puts out every year through 80 programs. We need to make sure that we are looking at those programs closely. But this was COVID era fraud that we have to make sure that those who defrauded the government and our taxpayers during the toughest times never get to do business with our agency again.
Now, what's the timeline on something like this? Because you're dealt with, hefty amounts of dollars, hefty amounts of these loans, hefty amounts of people who are allegedly participating in such fraudulent activity. What's kind of the timeline as far as prosecuting these people and consequences?
Well, we'll leave that to our federal law enforcement partners.
2 minutes.
Our work was to get to work as quickly as possible. So we found this out Thanksgiving weekend. By Christmas, we had notified Governor Walz that the SBA was defunding any further efforts within Minnesota. And so we have moved so quickly. And now we have the blueprint in place to go across the country and go state by state and find those people, those bad actors who, whether acting independently or as part of an organized crime operation, to make sure that they never access our resources and potentially other resources across the federal government, because the American taxpayer deserves these answers quickly.
And I'm sure we'll be seeing more, as that comes out. Now that you have the blueprint out, I'm sure we'll be seeing more from your administration across the entire country in these blue states like Washington State as well, and maybe some of the other states, especially during COVID and especially as more is coming out in Minnesota. So now that we're in 2026, what are some of the goals that the SBA has moving forward?
Well, we're going to continue the strong framework that we built in 2025. And the Trump SBA is first about empowering the private sector that had been so disrespected by the Biden administration. They drove up inflation, drove wage growth down. They hurt the American worker, small businesses. So we're restoring that confidence through our programs, through the support and finally deregulating, because the Biden administration, while they were pushing down the small business community and propping up the federal government, they excessively regulated small businesses. So we're helping lead a White House task force to, it's really called a strike force, to strike out just thousands of regulations, because we saw that in the first year of this president's great first year term, that he was able to eliminate about 120 regulations for every new regulation. So we're going to keep doing that, get off the backs of the American people and help them build the American dream in America.
Okay, I haven't heard from her in a long time.
Within just a few hours of a video being released. So right now, you have the Trump administration has a lot of things on their hands. Right now, they have Venezuela. They had the whole entire Epstein screw up that looked really bad, and you're having mass deportations, and people they might not be deporting as many people as people would like. I just drew them the biggest layup ever. If they really want to go in and get everyone back on board, this is a great opportunity for them. So they better go and do it.
I hope they do. I hope they do. You're 23 and you've watched how fast your own reporting could move online. Why is Fuentes able to gain traction with young audiences? And what does that tell you about how Gen Z decides who to trust now?
Yeah, Nick Fuentes, he's extremely entertaining to watch.
He's
actually like a comedian when he talks. He's pretty funny. And you can't say he's not. If he wasn't, millions of people wouldn't be watching him. Now, do you agree with everything he says? No. Do you agree with everything Dave Chappelle says? No. Is there some truth that Nick Fuentes is saying? Yes.
What about you?
I'm saying
you've got millions and millions of people. I think the question is, what is it about you guys that Gen Z is just going nuts over?
Yeah.
It's just raw, real.
Well,
for you, in the weeds. It's just shit that nobody's doing anymore.
Yeah. And growing up, you were it's hard to go out and say what you want because you're worried about people coming after you. And so when you have people like Nick Fuentes who are just saying things as he wants to say them, people are going to get attached to that. And for me, if I'm going out and showing people things for what they really are, and I'm not censoring people out of the conversation, people are going to like that because they want that realness, because they want to feel represented. They don't want to feel like they're having one conversation with their friend in the car and then they have to go at the dinner table and have a different conversation.
Do you think I'm curious to hear. Do you think Gen Z is as tribalized as the older generations, or is Gen Z solely interested in just the truth? They're just so tired of all the bullshit from both sides. They're just interested in actual factual information, not opinion pieces,
Is it
not any of that.
Cascade?
Just facts and people with the courage to
Welcome. It's been a while.
put it
I
out
think
there.
you've been in here before.
I would say once they graduate high school and they realize how hard real life really is to make real money and to be able to get into a house and to be able to provide for yourself. Yes, like they just want the truth, cut and dry. That's why you see so many of them kind of either feeling very defeated or people are actually rising up to the battle that we're facing.
A lot of it
Because a lot of these kids are starting their life behind the starting line. They go to college, the bank will give them $100,000 loan. They start their life off $100,000 in debt.
Mm-hmm.
And so a lot of people are wondering, well, why actually are we doing that? And that's why, whether it be Nick Fuentes or whether it be Charlie Kirk, we're all kind of trying to share the same message at the end of the day that go chase the American dream because you're capable of doing it. Question yourself. Question the people you listen to. Like Nick, we all serve our own roles in this atmosphere of politics or just commentary. Your role is different than my role. Nick Fuentes' role is different than me and yours. My role is to show people what's happening from the ground. The news is to try and show people whatever they're trying to do. And then you have people like Charlie Kirk who's going to talk the kids to colleges. You have people like Tucker Carlson and Candace Owens who are stirring up the pot. And then you have people on CNN. I don't even want to say their names because I don't even want to give them credit. But they're also stirring up the pot on that side. And there needs to be a way where we can all kind of come together in a common ground.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what Gen Z is kind of looking for, is just kind of feel represented in a way where they have some hope.
So you're saying they want to see the bickering stop and results start to happen?
Yeah. I would say, like, we just want to have the same opportunities that our parents or grandparents had.
Mm-hmm.
Like, a lot of kids aren't getting married, myself included. I'm 23. I'm not in no rush to get married, but a lot of people just feel like, wow, why would I get married when I can't even get into a house and I'll be suffering with my wife and living in some junky apartment?
That's what it is, huh?
Yeah. It's like you see the TikToks of, I love the TikToks of like the old America when you see just people out in the street with their family and their kids and the epic music, the American flags. And then I hate when I see the next the next scene is when you're seeing just people strung out on fentanyl on the street corners, and you're seeing
he's
people getting
whining.
battles over race and religion. It's just like, that's not what this is all about.
Yeah.
That was good. So I came on at 4 because I'm glad you're in, Spas. We got your favorite lady there, an hour and a half from yesterday's show. So I'll be playing that here soon. Another 5 minutes.
Less option to feed their families.
That grocery store you've been loyally shopping at for years, they've been quietly robbing you blind. And now karma's hitting them hard. 10 major chains are watching their empires crumble as we speak. And number 4 on this list? Nobody saw that collapse coming. Remember when Amazon bought Whole Foods back in 2017 and everyone thought prices would finally drop? Yeah, about that. The jokes practically wrote themselves. Customers called it whole paycheck for years because a quick grocery run somehow cost $200. You walked in for milk and walked out with a second mortgage. Amazon swooped in like a superhero promising change. Lower prices, better deals. The future of grocery shopping.
KK,
Well, here's what actually happened. Many items still cost 20 to 40% more than what you'd find at Kroger. That organic almond butter, still $12, when the same thing costs $7 down the street. And shoppers noticed. Boy, did they notice.
I was wondering what happened.
After 2022, foot traffic dropped hard.
Get up here.
Inflation made everyone suddenly very good at mental math. People started asking themselves why they were paying premium prices for the same avocado they could grab at Aldi for half the cost. The closures came next. Multiple stores shuttered in 2023 and 2024. Cities where Whole Foods once reigned supreme watched their fancy grocery stores disappear. Here's the kicker, though. Aldi now sells organic products that taste nearly identical. No mood lighting, no artisan cheese displays, just good food at honest prices. Longtime Whole Foods loyalists admit they feel priced out of their own store. Many jumped ship to Trader Joe's, where specialty items don't require a payment plan. But Whole Foods isn't alone in this struggle. Another health-focused chain promised premium quality too, and the cracks are showing even faster. Sprouts. Farmers Market sounds healthy, looks healthy. The produce section practically glows with organic goodness. But your wallet? That thing leaves the store looking pretty sick. Here's what drives people crazy about Sprouts. They built this whole brand around being the affordable health food option. The farmer's market vibe, the bulk bins, the "we're not as expensive as Whole Foods" promise. Except they kind of are. Those organic avocados sitting pretty in Sprouts, $1.50 cheaper at your regular supermarket, the fancy almond butter. Costco sells basically the same thing for way less. And don't get me started on supplements. Sprouts pushes vitamins and supplements hard. Like, really hard. Half the store is bottles promising to fix everything from your joints to your memory. Seniors used to load up on this stuff. Not anymore. When you're watching every penny, that $40 fish oil becomes a luxury. And here's what really stings. No loyalty program worth mentioning. Kroger gives you gas points. Safeway throws senior discounts at you. Sprouts? Nothing. Just a smile and a receipt that makes you wince. The average basket there runs 25 to 30% higher than Walmart. Every single trip. That adds up faster than your grandkids grow. Same-store sales started dropping as inflation made everyone pay attention to prices. Turns out, people will choose cheaper groceries over a pleasant shopping atmosphere. Wild concept, right? But Sprouts isn't the only chain discovering that premium prices need premium loyalty. One discount store actually forgot what discount means. Save a Lot used to be the store where you could fill a cart for $50. Now, that same cart costs $80.
Update on the store cost. So Nick came out with a big video, just now. So we're going to play that one. Then we'll play Billy's 18-minute one. And then we'll get to the hour-and-a-half one from a lady from Australia.
My mind is blown, very angry, and it takes a lot to get old Nick Mosita rattled like this. But this really just takes the Somalian fraud scandal to a whole new level. I mean, it puts it into a whole new light. And when I show you this, you're going to see exactly what I mean. But before we get started, ladies and gentlemen, I want to say up front that you're going to have to bear with me a bit because I've got to piece together a puzzle here, and I have 3 different sources that I'm going to pull up. But by the end of this video, it's all going to come together and it's all going to make sense. And I'm telling you, you're going to feel like you're in the Twilight Zone. So ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, let me get to my first puzzle piece. This was published by Just the News yesterday, John Solomon, Just the News. And they put out a story which is about how the Somalians in Minnesota are carrying millions of dollars in cash through the Minneapolis airport. And the amount of money that they're transporting to other countries from the Minneapolis airport was 10 to 100 times larger than the total foreign exodus of money at other larger American airports in the last 2 years. Now, what does that tell us? We've got a community of people that really don't contribute much in terms of generating revenue for the state of Minnesota. I base this on the fact that I did some math here using ChatGPT, and it turns out that Somali Minnesotans, they on average contribute about $1.5 thousand in state and local taxes per year per working Somalian adult, versus the Minnesota average of $5,000 to $6,000. So a community of people that are largely on welfare, not working, not generating a lot of revenue to be shipped by the millions to other countries. Let's just put it that way. At least not by legitimate means. Now, we do know, however, that the Somalian community has committed massive amounts of fraud, defrauding the taxpayer of billions of dollars. So, are you putting two and two together of where they might have gotten the money that they're shipping overseas from? I mean, look, I'm not a freaking detective here, but I gotta say, given what we know about what's going on in Minnesota, I think this is a little bit suspicious. What do you guys think? Let me know down in the comments section. So Just the News reported Tuesday that the Transportation Security Administration detected and flagged nearly $700 million in cash moved in luggage out of the Minneapolis airport by Somali couriers in 2024 and 2025 alone, a stunning total that averaged nearly $1 million a day. That is a stunning amount of cash, folks. That is an insane amount of money. And some of these people you'll see are moving money by the millions. Like a single courier has $1 million in their luggage, and they're willingly reporting this at the airport because all they have to do is sign a federal form, and by law, it's perfectly legal to move money like this as long as you sign a federal form if the amount exceeds $10,000 or more. So they sign the form willingly, and the reason is simple. Because when you're moving cash, think about it, guys. Compare moving cash to a digital bank transfer or a wire transfer. When you move money digitally, we know who the sender is and we know who the recipient is. But when you move cash, we know who the sender is, but we don't know who's receiving the money on the other end. So they say some of the cash moved to Amsterdam and then to Dubai, a route that has garnered concern in recent days by intelligence agencies and federal criminal investigators, officials say. It was like a cash ATM draining American dollars and moving them overseas, but nobody in the Biden administration seemed to think anything of it. These couriers were openly flaunting what they've done by legally declaring the cash they were taking out. So I find that interesting. They're moving the money through Amsterdam and then to Dubai. Now, I will say this. Once that cash crosses a sovereign border and enters a destination where the U.S. law doesn't extend, the United States has no visibility or enforcement whatsoever. So pretty much once that money's gone, we only get the intelligence that the agencies in the other countries are willing to share with us. And in Amsterdam and Dubai in particular, that information is very limited. And coincidentally, Amsterdam and Dubai are the two largest cash laundering transit hubs in the world. So, I mean, they're taking millions of dollars. They have no way of obtaining millions of dollars through legitimate means, and they're moving it to the cash laundering hubs of the world. Now, that in and of itself is explosive, right? But I started digging a little bit more, and I found this. And this is puzzle piece number 2. This is an article from ABC 10 from back in 2016, ladies and gentlemen. Suitcases full of cash leaving SeaTac Airport. So this is Seattle, Washington. Travelers pulling suitcases full of cash started showing up at SeaTac Airport last year, holding tickets for flights headed out of the United States. The money was designated for recipients in East Africa, raising concerns among anti-terror officials. The thing was the amount, the staggering amount, said Glenn Kearns, who was assigned to the FBI's Joint Terrorism Task Force at the time. Couriers were working for Seattle area hawalas. Seattle and King County are home to tens of thousands of immigrants and refugees from East Africa, many of whom use the hawalas to send much-needed money back to loved ones in their homelands. Given the presence of active terrorist organizations in Somalia, investigators worry that some of the money shipped home by Somalis end up in the hands of the Al-Qaeda affiliate active there. And they're talking about Al-Shabaab, which has been designated a terrorist organization and is adjacent to Al-Qaeda in Somalia. Now, these hawalas, these businesses that are used by the Somalian community to transfer money to the homeland, they are absolutely controlled by Al-Shabaab, which means that even if you were to try to legitimately send your family money and you are not trying to launder the money to terrorists, the terrorists are going to tax that money, which means that you are actively funding terrorism whether you like it or not. One hawala sent out $20 million last year, said Kearns. Over the years, U.S. banks have been refusing to wire money on behalf of hawalas, worried that the bank could be held liable for failing to report suspicious activity. In March 2015, the last bank serving hawalas merchants shut down the last remaining accounts of hawalas that wired money to Somalia. That left the hawalas with no other option but to ferry cash overseas on behalf of their customers. So are you guys picking up what I'm putting down here? Are you guys scooping what I'm pooping so far? Putting these two articles together, what have we got? Okay, in Minneapolis, Minnesota, we have $700 million over the last 2 years being transferred by Somalians to Amsterdam and Dubai, the money laundering hubs of the world. And why are they doing that? Well, we just learned that back in 2016, this started popping up in Seattle, Washington, because they shut down the access to the hawalas, which were connected to terrorism and funding Al-Shabaab. So after they shut down the access to the hawalas, then the Somalians, they started carrying cash and then traveling to Amsterdam and Dubai, where they could access the hawalas and launder the money and fund Al-Shabaab terrorists. And we have two separate reports of this happening from the Somalians in two separate states where there's a large Somalian community. And these two reports are damn near 10 years apart. Now, here's where things start to get really crazy and things start to really come together. And by the way, we haven't even gotten to the third piece of the puzzle, which is truly going to blow your mind. And let's see what happened when Mr. Kearns, the Seattle police officer who retired and served 14 years on the FBI's Joint Terrorism Task Force, let's see what happened when he reported this suspicious activity. So first he says he researched the names of the 10 clients who transferred the most money through hawalas last year, and turned out all 10 of them were on welfare benefits. DSHS benefits, said Kearns. It's fraud. Straight up fraud, every one of them. So then Kearns said he, along with an agent from a federal agency he would not disclose, took their case to the U.S. Attorney's Office in Seattle. And guess what the U.S. Attorney said? Kearns said that when he took the evidence to the U.S. Attorney did not want to touch it because it would look like he was targeting a specific community. Now, where have we heard that before? Are you guys feeling like you're living in the Twilight Zone at this point? And needless to say, nothing was ever done and nothing changed. And we can see both in Minneapolis and in Seattle, these transfers of cash have ballooned bigger and bigger and bigger over the years. Now, I want to show you guys a video that I found accidentally while I was doing research for this video. This is a report from Fox 9 from 7 years ago out of Minnesota. And when you see it, you are just going to be in disbelief. It's going to feel like you have deja vu. Now, before we play it, guys, I almost forgot to ask you guys kindly to click that like button and subscribe to this channel if you haven't already. And if you want to save a ton of money at mypillow.com, then go to mypillow.com/Nick and you'll save up to 66% off the best sleep products in the world. You can get the amazing Giza Dream Sheets for as low as $29.98 and save 50% off the 6-piece towel set with my promo code Nick. That's N-I-C-K. Now, without further ado, let's go ahead and play this. And I hope you guys are sitting down right now because you're about to be in shock when you see this. In the first minute, you're just going to be like, what the hell is this?
Investigating what appears to be rampant fraud in a massive state program, a fraud suspected of costing Minnesota taxpayers as much as $100 million a year. Our reporting is based on public records and nearly a dozen government sources who have direct knowledge of what's happening. These sources have a deep fear, and there's evidence to support their concerns that some of that public money is ending up in the hands of terrorists. We begin at Minneapolis-St. Paul International Airport, where mysterious suitcases filled with cash have become a fairly common carry-on.
Now, you already see how crazy this is. This was published May 14th, 2018.
We're told these cloak and dagger-like scenarios now happen almost weekly at MSP International. The money is usually headed to the Middle East, Dubai, and points beyond. Our sources say last year alone, more than $100 million cash left MSP in carry-on luggage.
Now we're seeing that number has ballooned to $350 million in 2025. But it gets so much better, guys. Keep listening and you'll see why.
The national go-to expert on what's behind these mysterious money transfers is Glenn Kearns. He's a former Seattle police detective who spent 15 years on the FBI's Joint Terrorism Task Force until his retirement.
It's an outright crime. It's unbelievable.
Kearns tracked millions of dollars in cash that was leaving on flights from Seattle. Kearns discovered some of the money was being funneled to a hawala in a region of Somalia that's controlled by the Al-Shabaab terrorist group.
So I talked to a couple sources who had lived in that region, and I said, if money is going to this hawala, do you think it's going to Al-Shabaab? And he said, oh, definitely. That area is controlled by Al-Shabaab, and they control the hawala there.
He says when the money arrives,
This is
whether
a
it was
good one.
intended for legitimate purposes or not, Al-Shabaab or other groups demand a cut. As Kearns dug deeper, he found that some of the individuals who were sending out tens of thousands of dollars worth of remittance payments happened to be on government assistance in this country. How could they possibly come up with such big bucks to transfer back home?
We had sources that told us it's all about it's welfare fraud. It's all about the daycare.
Skirt, did he just say what I think he said?
5 years ago, the Fox 9 investigators were first to report that daycare fraud was on the rise here in Minnesota.
So in this video from 7 years ago, he said they discovered daycare fraud 5 years ago. So now we're talking 12 years ago, they discovered the daycare fraud in Minnesota.
We exposed how some businesses were gaming the system to steal millions in government subsidies meant to help low-income families with their child care expenses.
This is a great way to make some money. I think it's kind of that informal word of mouth.
In order for the scheme to work, the daycare centers need to sign up low-income families that qualify for child care assistance funding. These surveillance videos are from a case prosecuted by Hennepin County. They show parents checking their kids into a center only to leave with them a few minutes later. Sometimes no children would show up. But either way, the center would bill the state for a full day of child care. This video from that same case shows a man handing out envelopes of what are believed to be kickback payments to parents who are in on the fraud.
People setting up fake daycares, collecting millions of dollars in government subsidies, giving the parents kickbacks, and sending that money overseas to fund terrorism has been going on for at least 12 years in the state of Minnesota. It's all been caught, documented, reported, and handed on a silver platter to the so-called leadership in the state that was supposed to do something about it. And 12 years later, it not only wasn't stopped, it has ballooned into $1 billion problem. This is like deja vu. All this stuff coming out from Nick Shirley, it's already been done before years ago. I got one more clip to show you guys from this, which is just going to drive it home even more how absurd it is and how unbelievable it is that this has been going on for so long. It's such a big problem and nothing's been done about it. Look at this.
Sources in the Somali community tell us it's an open secret that starting a daycare center is a license to make money. The fraud is so widespread, they say, that people buy shares of daycare businesses to get a cut of the huge public subsidies that are pouring in. Some government insiders believe this scam is costing the state at least $100 million a year, half of all child care subsidies.
Is that within the realm of possibility?
I don't think half sounds credible. I certainly think that some of the schemes that we're seeing, and certainly the ones that we've brought forward already for prosecution, involve millions of dollars. I mean, this is not a small scale that we're looking at.
Minnesota started aggressively going after daycare fraud in 2014. Back then, it was easier to track the flow of money. The state would pay a daycare's bill, and within hours of the money showing up in the business's bank account, funds were being wired to the United Arab Emirates. But those wire transfers stopped after a few centers were busted. which takes us back to the suitcases of cash at Minneapolis St. Paul International. In 2015, investigators documented 14 million in carry-on cash. By 2016, it had mushroomed to 84 million, and then last year, 100 million. A trend all too familiar to former terrorism investigator Glenn Kearns. How much confidence can you say that it's likely some of this money is going towards terrorism?
I'd say absolutely. Absolutely. Our sources tell us that. Good sources from the community, leaders. My personal feeling is we need a nationwide task force to clamp down on this kind of fraud.
Well, needless to say, that nationwide task force was never formed. And only now that Trump is in office for the second time is something being done about it. But I just wanted to show this all to you guys so you can not only see that this is a long-standing issue that goes back to at least 2014, but not only is it in Minnesota, it is documented and proven to be in other states as well. And nothing was done about it in Seattle, Washington. So imagine how bad the problem is out there. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I wanted to put all this out there. I really tried to think about how I could present all this to you guys in a succinct package, but it ended up being.
So that was pretty good.
Today's date, January 8, time in Texas, about 11 a.m. Some of the things we'll cover: tankers, secret cargo. President Trump takes the U.S. out of UN Organizations Plus, and the U.S. appears to be prepping to hit Iran and Greenland. So let's get started. So we've got this going on. We have from Crossroads, Joshua Phillips. It appears also that next, the U.S. could also hit the cartels in Mexico, and President Trump currently is warning Mexico. And we have this from Fox News stating that at least 300,000 Americans over a year-to-year period have been killed by cartels via drugs into the U.S. And that's from Mexico, Latin America, and Canada. Canada, we understand, is also on President Trump's list to take down their cartel ties. And President Trump puts this forth: any country that wants to try and stop President Trump, the American people, the U.S. military, exposes the fact that they also must have cartel ties. So that's going on. And we have this. President Trump currently is negotiating, according to the Wall Street Journal, with Denmark to buy Greenland. And he also has on the table that if Denmark declines to negotiate with the U.S., and I believe President Trump wants to wrap this up now, imminently, that the U.S. could also take Greenland by U.S. military force. And we have that a statement coming out of NATO regarding President Trump's negotiations with Denmark, and also his, saying that the U.S. needs Greenland for U.S. strategic security, and that taking it by force is also on the table. NATO statement says, if the U.S. invades Greenland, that will be the end of NATO. And I've got this to say: nothing would make the American people happier We have this from Bloomberg and also Hal Turner, that President Trump has taken the U.S. out of 66 international and UN organizations and has made a list and advised Secretary of State Marco Rubio to publish it in the Federal Register. This includes 31 UN organizations and 35 non-UN organizations, covering many things like climate, renewable energy, and also piracy and international law. So from Hal Turner, a list was given, and I'll just cover some highlights of the international organizations President Trump has taken us out of. In the UN, 31 total organizations, including economic groups, social affairs, Latin America, Caribbean, Asia, Pacific, international law, international criminal law, and international trade. Some non-UN organizations he's taken us out of: global counterterrorism, global migration, global mining and minerals, and global climate change. Some additional UN organizations President Trump has taken us out of include peacekeeping and the Peacekeeping Fund. Also, organizations that deal with people of African descent, that would include Somalis. UN organizations that are involved with deforestation, UN Democracy Fund, UN Energy, UN Climate Change, UN Oceans, UN Population Fund, UN Water Organizations, and also non-UN organizations that are engaged in international development of law, energy, arts, culture, justice, and the rule of law. Also renewable energy, geography, and piracy. And science and technology organizations located in Ukraine, and an international organization involved with criminal tribunals. We know many Americans are looking forward to criminals inside the U.S. Being tried by the U.S. military tribunals. President Trump is currently withdrawing from international organizations, both UN and non-UN, that would govern such things as piracy, peacekeeping, also climate change. So way to go, President Trump. We have this from Times of India, that the U.S. apparently plans to take Greenland now on President Trump's order. I believe taking Greenland is imminent, either paying for it or taking it by force. Congress had a hearing, and we had a statement by Anna Paulina Luna from Florida regarding the welfare Somali fraud investigations now going on in Minnesota and other states. And Anna Paulina Luna has heard enough. She believes that certain government criminals should be referred to the DOJ for criminal investigation. This includes the governor and attorney general of Minnesota, and we know the governor is Tim Walz. So that's going on. We have this. Beston Taylor had some intel regarding secret cargo on the now 4 tankers the U.S. military have taken. And the intel states that on these tankers, they're not loaded with oil. Instead, they're loaded with high-tech equipment to be used in military operations. Some were supposed to go to Venezuela for Venezuela to use against the U.S., and some were supposed to go to Iran for Iran to use against Israel and the U.S. So secret cargo on the tankers. They're not loaded with oil. From Breitbart. So President Trump has a strategy to destroy our number one enemy, and that's China. First, take over Venezuela and their oil. No more oil to China. Then take over Iran and control their oil. No, because China came out and made a statement. Oh, if we can't get oil from Venezuela, we'll get it from Iran. Well, not for very long, because President Trump, the U.S. military are getting ready to also take control of Iran. President Trump's strategy, it appears, is to control the oil flow from Venezuela and Iran to take China down, beginning economically. So that's going on. And we have this. We have that, Australia yesterday was urging its citizens to leave Iran. And we have also Australia putting out do not travel to Iran warning to travelers, because in Iran there are violent protests. This will be the 8th or 9th day of continued protest. I put out yesterday that the Iranian citizens have now taken over a major city in western Iran, have overcome. If there isn't a military in the world, that would include the U.S. military. If the citizens of America, about 300 million, began to protest to change government, there wouldn't be a military or law enforcement force in the U.S. strong enough and large enough to fight back the citizens. The same thing is happening in Iran. I believe that, yes, the U.S. government has been aiding and abetting Iranian citizens, most likely very much support in the recent months, leading up to now this continued strong protest against the government in Iran.
2 minutes.
To soften up Iran before the U.S. hits it militarily. And it's believed, according to the intel that Hal Turner has received, that the U.S. and Israel could hit Iran within the next 12 to 24 hours. So we have that going on. And yesterday, the Israeli government was advised by Netanyahu that President Trump had okayed Israel hitting Iran. And we have intel that riots inside Iran are cutting the government. So the government strong protests continue inside Iran. Yesterday, Iran was cutting internet to all citizens and only was allowing an internal Iranian intranet system to operate. In other words, cutting off Iranian citizens from being able to communicate to the outside world what's going on. And we have this. Yes, this came out late last night that from Hal Turner's intel The U.S. could hit Iran in the next 12 to 24 hours. And that the U.S. preps to hit Iran by military force. And Israel is to take part in the military strike. Iran, meanwhile, is threatening to preemptively strike Israel with as many as 1,000 missiles. So it's good to be in prayer for America. President Trump, the U.S. military, and world peace. I love you, and I'll see you soon.
Okay, I'm not ready for
Good
the
afternoon, everybody. Let me be clear.
not ready for the big one yet. And should be coming in, but I'm gonna play one more before the big video. Let's play the X2 report. Then we'll get to the big one. $24, then the big one after. This is yesterday's.
Hi, and welcome. You're listening to the X22 Report. My name is Dave, and this is episode 3813 AN. Today's date is January 7th, 2026. The title of the episode is Newsom wants to confiscate your Bitcoin. Trump is shutting down the central bank plan. Hey, listen, if you're over 40 and planning to retire someday, the window to protect what you've built may be smaller than you realize. Here's a question most people never ask. Is your portfolio built for what's coming next? Many investors in their 40s and 50s discover they have little to no exposure to precious metals. That means their savings are largely tied to markets, policies, and paper assets, with very little protection if conditions change. As retirement moves from someday to on the horizon, protecting what you have already built becomes just as important as growing it. That's where Noble Gold Investments come in, helping investors reduce portfolios. Right now may be investments. No pressure, no sales gimmick, just clear answers and strategy built around our goals. Visit your portfolio for the long term. That's X20, or just click the link in the description. And remember, past performance may not be indicative of future results. Investing in precious metals involves risk. Consult your financial advisor before making investment decisions. Let's get right into the economic collapse financial news. Now, the deep state, the corrupt politicians, the private West Central Bank, the World Economic Forum, you can see that shutting down the economic forum plan, because remember, they were trying the Green New Scam, the Great Reset. And since Trump implemented the tariffs, you can see that those nations that were following the Green New Scam, that were having trouble in the first place, now their economies are actually imploding on themselves. And you can see that here in the United States, out in California, because they've been following the Green New Scam. And you can see that California is not getting that influx of money from the federal government. So they are now struggling right now. A lot of businesses, a lot of people, they're moving out of California. When you look at the Eurozone, you can see Germany, that was the template of the Eurozone, to follow the Green New Scam. And since they've been doing this and moving away from oil, you could see that their manufacturing has been imploding, and you could see the entire country, their entire economic system, it has been shrinking. And it's getting worse and worse as time goes on. Now, since Trump said, okay, we're going to be placing tariffs on Germany and many other nations, you could see that Germany is struggling right now, and it's just going to get worse before it gets better, because they're going to have to try to turn all of this around to make things better. And when you look at the German trade surpluses, they're shrinking right now. with 2025 exports to the U.S. projected down 7% and overall trade surplus far below 2024 levels. So since tariffs stepped in, the Eurozone has struggled with exports and hasn't even retaliated to them. A passive approach that shows off all its weakness and above all is sinking the economy of its major member, Germany. Germany was already stuck with a negative GDP growth before tariffs, but the latter are acting as a final blow for the third economy in the world. Germany's total exports in 2024 amounted to 1.63 trillion. 11% of these goods were exported to the U.S., the main trading partner. Just this data says a lot. In fact, Germany used to rely on the U.S. to generate billions and billions of trade surpluses. Now, almost every European good exported to the U.S. is subject to a 15% tariff, which is making German goods less convenient for U.S. companies. We know that the latter pay most of the tariffs, and this means bearing higher costs of goods sold, therefore lower profits. Companies don't like to reduce their net profit margin, so it's not a surprise they're all looking around to find new trading partners. And you can see there's a lot of manufacturers within Germany. They decided, you know something, instead of paying all these tariffs and taking the hit, why don't we just move our entire production over to the United States? And we're starting to see a lot of these companies start to do this. And I do believe in the end, the people of Germany, the people of the Eurozone, they're going to have to make a decision. Do you want to continue down the path of the Green New Scam, the Great Reset, or do you want to take control of your economic system? Because the United States is moving in a completely and utterly different direction. The United States is moving away from the central bank system. And when you look at the Eurozone, they're moving towards the Green New Scam, the Great Reset. So you're going to see a very, very big difference. I mean, you're seeing the very big difference here in the United States because California, many of the blue states, they're moving towards the Green New Scam. They're moving towards the Great Reset. And Trump is moving the entire country in an opposite direction. So those states that follow Trump and they're on board with all this, their economies are going to actually do very, very well. When you look at the blue states, their economies are going to be absolutely horrific. And what they're going to have to do is they're going to have to try to go internally into their state because they won't be getting the federal money. They'll have to go internally into their states to try to make up the difference. And this is when everything really starts to fall apart, because when you start taxing people, stealing their wealth and everything else, the people aren't going to just sit by and go, okay, yeah, you know what? Take my Bitcoin, take my wealth, take more taxes. This is great. When they look around and they say, hey, look, I got relatives in Texas. I got relatives in Florida. I got relatives in Tennessee, and they're not going through any of this. So they're going to have to make a decision, and they're going to say, you know something, maybe we shouldn't be in California. A lot of the companies are going to be doing this also. So you're going to see a lot of things change as we move forward, especially now since we are now getting the oil from Venezuela. And I do believe this is going to be a game changer because, again, they've been holding back all this oil. Now this oil is going to be hitting the market. I don't mean it's going to happen tomorrow, but eventually it's going to start to hit the market, and you're going to see oil prices really start to come down, especially when you look at Iran. When we have regime change there, and I don't mean United States, when the people of Iran overthrow their installed leaders, I should say, all of a sudden you're going to see everything change in the Middle East. So the central bankers wanted the oil supply to be scarce. And they would say, hey, look, there's no oil. Let's raise the prices. This is what they've been doing. Trump is now doing the opposite. And what's very interesting, Disclosed TV put this out, U.S. Energy Secretary says, let's just engage with reality. Oil and gas and coal are what run the world. Full stop. We can't make a wind turbine or a solar panel or a nuclear power plant without massive amounts of oil and gas and coal. That's how the world works. And what we're going to do is we're going to take the oil from Venezuela. We're going to pay for it. That money's going to go directly to the people, not to the regime. And you're going to see that Venezuela is going to start to become very, very wealthy again. And I do believe eventually what's going to happen is they're going to have fair elections. Trump, he put this out on Truth. He said the following: I am pleased to announce that the interim authorities in Venezuela will be turning over between 30 and 50 million barrels of high quality sanctioned oil to the United States of America. This oil will be sold at its market price, and that money will be controlled by me as president of the United States of America to ensure it is used to benefit the people of Venezuela and the United States. I have asked Energy Secretary Chris Wright to execute this plan immediately. It will be taken by stored ships and brought directly to unloaded docks in the United States. Thank you for your attention to this matter. So this oil is just sitting there, and that's 30 to 50 million barrels. that are going to be brought into the United States, which is actually going to lower the oil prices. So we're going to see everything start to change right now, and this is going to be absolutely incredible. And what does that really mean? It means the U.S. is now the sole Venezuelan oil distributor seller worldwide. So think about this for a second, and think about all the oil that's coming onto the market. And what you saw during the Biden/Obama administration, where you saw oil prices go up and gas prices start to go up, you're going to see the opposite here. And think about it. We haven't even got to the point where Venezuela is completely and utterly up and running. The oil manufacturers, producers, once they get in there and they start to produce, we're going.
If you support President Trump and you're excited that he's taking down communist dictators like Maduro,
Dang it.
then you need to listen to this.
To see everything start to change. Doge AI Texas put this out and said, the U.S. move to control Venezuelan oil sales isn't a distraction. Hey, listen, if you're over 40 and planning to retire someday, the window to protect what you've built may be smaller than you realize. Here's a question most people never ask. Is your portfolio built for what's coming next? Many investors in their 40s and 50s discover they have little to no exposure to precious metals. That means their savings are largely tied to markets, policies, and paper assets, with very little protection if conditions change. As retirement moves from someday to on the horizon, protecting what you have already built becomes just as important as growing it. That's where Noble Gold Investments come in, helping investors reduce risk by adding physical gold to their portfolios. Right now may be a smart time to talk with Noble Gold Investments. No pressure, no sales gimmick, just clear answers and strategy built around our goals. Visit x22gold.com and build your portfolio for the long term. That's x22gold.com, or just click the link in the description. And remember, past performance may not be indicative of future results. Investing in precious metals involves risk. Consult your financial advisor before making investment decisions. It's strategic leverage. For decades, Venezuela's resource fueled corruption and instability, while American energy dominance was undermined. This action mirrors the tariff playbook. Apply maximum pressure to reset the terms, then use concessions to rebuild. The stored oil release jumpstarts market recalibration, while future production control ensures revenue flows through accountable channels, not Maduro's cronies or Beijing's backdoor deals. Critics miss this point. This isn't about confiscation. It's about dismantling a narco-state economic engine and replacing it with transparency. Energy Secretary Chris Wright plan aligns with proven American first doctrine. Force structural change through economic dominance, not endless aid. The goal, a stable, productive Venezuela that doesn't export chaos or rely on Chinese-Russian lifelines. Realignment takes pressure, and this is pressure applied correctly. And yes, when you open up that market of oil, everything changes. And think about it, as the gas prices continually drop, that is going to actually counter the inflation that the central bank has been causing. And you have to remember, the inflation is cumulative over time. This is why we've never gotten back to 1971 prices. They could tell you inflation is zero right now. But again, does that mean we go back to 1971 prices? No, because inflation is cumulative. So what we're seeing today is inflation is being brought down annually, and Trump is getting inflation under control compared to what Biden/Obama has done. And with fuel prices dropping, it's going to seem like inflation is dropping dramatically. Trueflation put this out and said, Trueflation U.S. inflation is back to its downtrend after a higher weekend. Trueflation U.S. CPI inflation today, 1.87%. Trueflation U.S. PCE inflation, 1.89%. The latest drop from 1.95% to 1.87% was driven by the housing category, with more decreases on the horizon. Our CPI index, calculated from millions of price data points, has remained below 2% since December 30th. So Trump has the inflation under control, and now he's going to return the buying power back to the people, slowly but surely. And one way of doing that is to lower the gas prices. Yes, the other way to do this is remove the taxes. And I do believe this is all going to happen. And like we said from the very beginning, we could see there are many, many companies now that are moving out of the Eurozone, moving out of the UK, and bringing their production here to the United States. And as the energy declines and it gets cheaper and cheaper and cheaper, the manufacturers are going to say, this is incredible. Trump is getting rid of the regulations. Energy is declining, and there's no inflation in the U.S., and there's billions of dollars coming in via tariffs. And we can actually really compete if we produce in the United States. And what do we see happening? Well, Amuse put this out and said, Rolls-Royce is planning to possibly relocate its $1.6 trillion ultra-fan jet engine program to the U.S., creating 40,000 jobs, citing labor government policies as the reason. So once again, they're looking at their own countries, and they're seeing the regulations. They're seeing the central bank put a lot of pressure. They're seeing the inflation. They're seeing that their economies aren't growing, and it's not very productive to be in those economies because they're pushing the Green New Scam. When they look at the United States, what are they seeing? They're seeing that we are not heading in the Green New Scam direction. They see that we're going to be using oil. We're going to be using gas. They see regulations being removed. They see, wait a minute, are we going to be removing taxes from people, which means a lot more people are going to want to work? We're going to find that labor that we need. And as fuel prices come down, they're going to say, listen, we can manufacture very, very cheaply. We can create the products. We can manufacture. We can deliver. We can do all these things. So everything is now changing. And you can see that everything that Trump is doing, he's pushing the stock market higher. Inflation is coming down. More jobs are being created. Gas prices are coming down. And gold and silver and Bitcoin, they will be moving up. Amuse put this up and says, U.S. markets surged to historic levels early in 2026, with the Dow Jones topping 49,000 and the S&P 500 reaching record high. The gains followed sustained growth under President Donald Trump's leadership. Investors rewarded a stable policy environment focused on domestic production, tax relief, and energy independence. America remained the strongest economy in the world as a capital flowed toward U.S. assets. Absolutely. And that's exactly what we're experiencing right now. And we're going to see more and more manufacturers, companies jump ship in the other countries and move to the United States. And once again, the United States is going to become a manufacturing powerhouse. And as we wean ourselves off the central bank system and we go directly to tariffs, you're going to see the central bank system is going to have a very, very difficult time. Now, the other thing that's very interesting is now Trump, he is now countering the deep state plan, the central bank plan, to actually bring us into the Great Reset, the Green New Scam. Now, think about what they were doing. Number one, they had the Green New Scam. They were trying to raise oil prices, which they were doing under Biden/Obama, which then forced the Green New Scam, which is solar and wind and electric cars and everything else. Plus, they were having institutions buy up as many homes as possible. Actually, when you do this, all of a sudden prices start to move up because there's scarcity and nobody's really living in these homes except the big institutions. They own them. So this drives up the prices and forces people to rent. Think about that for a second. And then you have the rates moving up, which makes it very difficult to get a mortgage. And remember, the Central Bank, the World Economic Forum, their plan was to have people actually own nothing and they will be happy. Now Trump, he decided to reverse all of this. All the homes that the institutions have been purchasing, they won't be doing this anymore, which means the prices of homes are going to start to come down and people will be able to get it. And actually, since the supply now is going to come onto the market, the prices are going to come down. Trump, he put this out on Truth. He said the following: for a very long time, buying and owning a home was considered the pinnacle of the American dream. It was the reward for working hard and doing the right thing. But now, because of the record high inflation caused by Joe Biden and Democrats in Congress, that American dream is increasingly out of reach for too many people, especially younger Americans. It is for that reason and much more that I'm immediately taking steps to ban large institutional investors from buying more single-family homes, and I'll be calling on Congress to codify it. People live in homes, not corporations. I will discuss this topic, including further housing and affordability proposals and more, at my speech in Davos in 2 weeks. Basically telling the World Economic Forum, yeah, you know the plan that you had where people weren't going to own anything and they were going to be happy, and you were trying to bring us into the Great Reset where the central bank was going to have complete and utter control of all currency and they could shut people's accounts down wherever they want or whenever they want. Well, that's coming to an end. I shut down the Green New scam. I'm shutting down the institutions buying homes. Everything now is being reversed. And soon the central bank system will cease to exist the way you know it. And like we said in the very, very beginning, you can see that Newscomb, he's becoming very, very desperate because, again, he's not getting the federal funds. You can see a lot of the funds that have been going to Minnesota, Iowa, Ohio, California.
Where is the best place to hide during martial law?
Guys, I don't know how many videos I have to make, but I'm making
Colorado, New York, and many other places, they have been shut down right now. And you can see that these states are going to be hurting because they depended on the federal funds and the money laundering to launder everything in their state. So if you don't get the funds externally, what do you do? And think about the central bank. If you don't get the funds externally, what do you have to do? You have to go internally and get the money from the people. Isn't that what the central bank is? Well, this is what Newsom is about to do. So Newsom has signed a bill allowing the state to transfer custody of any Bitcoin or cryptocurrency held on exchanges after 3 years of inactivity. Under the law, the inactive accounts on centralized exchanges are classified as unclaimed property. So let me just get this straight. If I'm in California and I have a Bitcoin account and I am just holding that money in the account, just my bank account, I have a savings account in a separate bank where I just store my money, and I haven't touched it in 3 years. The state has the right to go in and confiscate it? Think about that for a second. That's what they're saying they're going to do to Bitcoin. So once again, they're going to try to go internally to get those funds. Number one, I would never store any type of cryptocurrency in an exchange. It's almost like a banking system. And you know what the banks do? They'll give any of these individuals access to your accounts. So, number one, I would not keep it in exchange. My personal opinion, I would keep it maybe in cold storage out of the exchanges. This way they can't access any of that. So if you have an exchange that's in California, because if the exchange is outside of California, then they really can't touch it. But again, you could see what he's trying to do here. So once again, they're going internally to get these funds because they are now struggling. And this is what happens. This is why the central bank went after the people's money, because that's how their system runs. They're not taking money in externally because you can't enslave a people that way. The only way you can enslave a people is to say, okay, listen, you borrowed this money. Now you owe us. Keep working. Keep working. And we're going to launder money all over the place while you keep paying for the interest on all this money. And now you can see Trump, he is now reversing all of this. And he's going to let the World Economic Forum know that their entire plan, well, it's just been flushed down the toilet. The United States is not heading that direction. We're not going the Green New scam. We're not going with the central bank digital currency. We're not going with a central bank system. We're now reversing all of this. And your plan now is being countered and it's being shut down. And I do believe as time goes on, the people are going to feel the benefit of the new system. I think people are already starting to feel it. But I do believe as we go throughout this year, it's going to get better and better and better. And people are going to be absolutely amazed at the difference between a central bank system and a Trump tariff system. And people, they're going to want more and more of that. And there's nothing the central bank can do at this point, because again, what are they going to do? Say, hey, we're going to tax you more. You got to pay more on interest. We're going to take more from you. No, they're kind of trapped in all of this. Trump, the Patriots, they know this. And like we said from the very beginning, going back in time, Trump is just doing the opposite of what the central bank did when they came into existence. They weaned us off the tariff system. We went full central bank. Trump now is bringing the tariff system online and weaning us off the central bank and bringing and actually going to external funding of the government. So in the end, you could see where this is all headed. And eventually what's going to happen as gold continually rises, as silver continually rises, as Bitcoin continually rises, what's going to happen is Trump eventually is going to say, all right, we're at the point where we need to see if we have any gold. Because look, the price of gold is at 8,000, 9,000, 10,000. Now we got to go see, do we have the gold? And I do believe we're going to find out we have a lot more gold than anyone could ever imagine, which is going to give Trump quite a bit of leverage. And once this is out there, you're going to see the central bank system buckle under its own corruption. And soon that will be then restructured into the Treasury. And we will then remove ourselves from that entire system and go directly onto the tariff system. And people will get their buying power back as Trump pays back the debt, not the full debt probably, but the debt, the people that the people actually owe. Because again, I think a lot of it has been done through criminal activity, as we're seeing throughout the country. Listen, everyone, thanks a lot for listening. Be well, be safe, and it's supposed to be prepared. Thanks a lot.
Okay, that was yesterday's X2 report. Now, I think I might have made a mistake on the lady from Australia. That might have been the other day, but she has a video from yesterday, so I'll see what this is.
Okay.
See what day this is.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. It's Wacky Wednesday.
Oh
my gosh, where do we start? First of all, a big hello to everyone out there. And before I forget, I haven't mentioned her for a while, but I do want to say a big hello to the beautiful Teresa. She's known as Starbright, ladies and gentlemen. Please send your love and prayers to her right now. Yeah, she's that lovely lady that does all the transcripts of our shows and works tirelessly in the background for all of you. So big hello to her this evening. We also have so many special birthdays across the world as well today. So
this
if you're
might be a
celebrating
new
a birthday or an anniversary or whatever you're celebrating, whether it be Christmas, Orthodox Christmas, we wish you all the very, very best across the world. So let's get into it. Wow. Yeah, Tucker Carlson just come out just a second ago too, but we'll go through that in just a moment. Very strange things are happening, aren't they? And it all ties in, of course, to our global currency reset. This is all to do with our reset as well. We're going to touch on the Insurrection Act tonight in the first part, because there were some very interesting developments that occurred today, and I wanted to bring to your attention. ICE, we know them as, of course, those law enforcement's enforcing the law. We saw the George Floyd incident a few years ago as well.
What do you think?
What was interesting, of course, let's take a different perspective and a different approach to this. When we think of Christmas, we think of snow, don't we? Well, ICE came out today in Minnesota, and there was an incident that occurred on 34th Street. 34th Street is also a Christmas movie, if you are not aware.
Remember this one. I think it's
this was a roundabout called the incident around Renee Good, who was killed in an incident today. This is very similar to that, ladies and gentlemen, of George Floyd. But we'll still get into that moment, because not, as I said, that I direct to the Q posts very often, but this one stood out to me like nobody's business. It was crazy. On January the 7th, 2018, I think it was, there was a Q post that talked about Good win. Renee Good, Minneapolis, Minnesota, and Eminem. Is this a coincidence, or is this the actual good win? This links us, of course, to Nasara, the lady by the name of Oneness, released to the world Nasara, that, of course, being your National Economic Act for those in America. It later then became the Global Act, of Economic Act as well. So law enforcement, enforcing the law. What is the law? This is why we're going to be talking about the Insurrection Act and why it's so important. Well, Trump also delivered a speech today. We'll get back to the Insurrection Act because this all ties in together. Today he delivered that a State of the Union is going to happen. He's going to be speaking and delivering the State of the Union on Tuesday, February the 24th. Now, if you were to tie this up with the calendars, February is December in the new calendar, 24th being, of course, Christmas Eve. Now, he's delivering this speech, and the Speaker of the House, of course, is Speaker Johnson. Thank you, MJ. Saying thanks to Nikola Tesla today as well. Of course, this is a day of rest for him as well. He was born on the 10th of July in 1856 and died on the 7th of January 1943. 43, flip it, 34. Just keep that in mind as we progress here. Jim Jordan, JJ, he touches on Minnesota Democrats for the benefiting from the fraudsters through the Department of Education. He's requesting the National Guard get deployed, and the Insurrection Act then comes into play, doesn't it? Is this it? Is this from day to day, Christmas Day, so to speak, as I said, has many different meanings and many elements? Is this the Christmas Day, but in a different perspective of the Insurrection Act comes into play? Is this where it comes into play, done in 30? The federal aid for the state governments empowers the president to deploy military for civil order. Now, we're talking about Minnesota. Renee Good, all in Minnesota. Is there going to be civil unrest for that, like I said, of George Floyd? Let's wait and see. We'll get back to George Floyd incident in a minute. It is required, of course, for the Insurrection Act, there has to be a publication of a presidential proclamation. Is this going to be that Q Post 34 on Friday of my fellow Americans to instigate, of course, that being the Insurrection Act? So let's have a look at President Trump's, from the time he was first inaugurated, of course, as number 45, just putting that out there. On June the 1st, 2020, President Trump warned that he would invoke the act, that being the Insurrection Act. Was this the first test in the response to George Floyd's protests following his murder of George Floyd? The federal officials talked Trump out of it. In January 6th, of course, in 2021, brought us to the US Capitol in Washington, D.C., where he was also going to invoke the act. Test number 2. On January the 20th, 2025, Trump signed an executive order, follow the pen, ladies and gentlemen, requiring the Secretary of Defense and the Secretary of Homeland Security within 90 days to submit a report about the conditions of the border to invoke the act. Our time, we've had a lot of things in this, haven't we? In June of 2025, in light of the anti-deportation protests in Los Angeles, Trump considered to invoke the act once again.
Oh, wow, Carol.
In October of 2025, he was asked again to float the possibility of invoking the act. This was in the Democratic leading states of Portland, Oregon, Chicago, and Illinois. Test number 5, will he invoke it? Or is there no test 5? Was play test testing? Well, Trump finally invoke the Insurrection Act? We will wait and see. This, of course, ladies and gentlemen, changes everything. Keep an eye out on what is going to transpire this week. So talking about the Trump, we're going to go to the Trump family now. Their crypto firm, World Liberty Financial, has just applied for a US banking license. Banking outside of the banking system.
Oh, you're here.
Let's also go and have a look at the Golden Fleet.
The one
Trump's
the other day.
new gold fleet. The USS
Wednesday.
Defiant. Also talking about Greenland.
10 minutes into
Land of the Green. The king of the castle is in the house, ladies and gentlemen. Just another side note to bring all of this together now, of what I've just spoken about, is on February the 24th in history, in 2022, was when Russia launched a full-scale invasion on Ukraine. The Russia hoax was brought to everyone's attention. So DJT then took the attention away from Ukraine and called it China, China, China. And the reason he did that was because there was an actual town inside of Ukraine called China. So February the 24th in 2026, 4 years later from that Russians being launched and DJT launching his Golden Fleet called the USS Defiant, we come to the State of the Union, the Union of Nations perhaps speech. Is this going to be Jassara?
What do you guys
Hold this
think?
thought as I go from today being the 7th of January through to the 24th of February is 1 month and 17 days.
JJ.
1 month,
You're late
17. 1/1/7/11, Christmas Day. That is 6 weeks and 6 days. If you flip a 66, ladies and gentlemen, that is a 99. That means completion. As for the RV news, that's all the dramas, llamas that happened just in the last hour that I just...
So what do you guys think? An Insurrection Act this time around when he does his speech, or I don't know, but I think this is from yesterday, so this is her second one this week, I believe.
Just put together. So, but anyway, in the RV news, let's have a look at the RV news. And then, of course, we'll have our Q&A. Alak in Iraq, he is now talking about exchange rate and the RIA. This is to do with the real effective exchange rate. I think when we were talking on Holly's show, I spoke of the different types of rates and what have you as well. The Central Bank of Iraq are still doing more training courses. We actually mentioned about this last month, actually, and I did say that they were in training at the time, and they're talking about more training courses. So they're still, having testing in the background. That's what I'm actually getting out of Australia. I did speak to one of my Australian groups yesterday, or the night before last, and they asked me that, and I said they are doing testing, and that's what I'm hearing out of Australia as well. Vietnam, of course, their digital economy is growing. They're going to surpass Thailand's GDP as well. That is exciting. It's also exciting for Thailand as well. They've also remained extremely strong, and their currency will also continue. As for we often used to hear about the Q phone. Wow, there's a big article out about your phone is the bank. It's quite a good one. Very interesting. We'll talk a little bit more about that, I'm sure, in the Q&A. The Clarity Act, of course, comes into play next week, January the 15th. Now, understand this is the first step before that bill is being headed to the House for voting. The Clarity Act, of course, which is for the rules and regulations of crypto, which was quite interesting considering the Trump family. Liberty Financial came out today to get their licensing done as well. There has been much speculation about that World Liberty Token in that realm. We'll keep a very close eye on what happens there. As I said, for them to pass the Clarity Act next week, it still has to go, of course, to the House to vote. So hold on to your hats, ladies and gentlemen. Of course, silver defaulted. Well, the defaults begin. So it begins, ladies and gentlemen. So it begins. It is a Christmas day as far as I'm concerned. So I did mention, of course, Tucker Carlson. So we'll get to Q&A in a very short second. Tucker Carlson has just come out on the mainstream media, and that's really important, ladies and gentlemen, because people still watch the news. People still watch the news, but you got to love Tucker Carlson. He is awesome. He is warning that the US is heading toward world war. All the signing with the pen, suggests that we are going to have a big war soon. Is it a big war? War is peace, ladies and gentlemen. Flip the switch. Merry Christmas to you all. Did we just see Delaware Christmas Eve party happen? I think it may have. Ladies and gentlemen, it is now over to all of you for Q&A. So, what a huge day today. I finally caught up with some sleep, actually. I had a couple of hours this afternoon and woke up at 6, so I do apologise for the short delay this evening. So no one wants to ask a question? Really? No one wants to ask a question tonight? There's a lot to talk about. So what else would you like to talk about? Oh, tribal power. Let's have a big hello to tribal power. As soon as my finger can get to work. Oh, yeah. Oh, tribal power. There you go. And CA. I'll allow you to speak as well. Tribal power. Did you have a question? No? You got scared? CA, if you're in the house, unmute yourself and you can ask away.
Hi, Mel. This is Chadi. I'm from British Columbia, Canada. Welcome. We love your show. You are always a delight in our house. Whenever we get your videos, we're super excited. My question is closer towards the RV, like in the RV side, because a lot of the information is coming out is towards U.S. destinations and so on. How does Canada do, considering like our 5 major banks? Like in the U.S., they have hundreds and hundreds of thousands of banks around, and they're separate. But in Canada, we are dominated by 5 major banks. 3 of them of which are being investigated right now by Homeland Security, U.S. Homeland Security, and so on for fraud and drug trafficking and all that. So that knocks out RBC, TD, and I think Scotiabank. And CIBC. So that leaves Scotia and BMO. What are your thoughts about this? And will they be redemption centers for us to go to?
Very good question. Wow. There's a multitude of things.
I know, loaded.
No. I've just written down some notes. Just going to ask you to just put it on mute for a second, so there's no echoing in the background, and I'll get through this and digest it. Okay. First of all, the news that you're hearing about banks, and we often hear, and this goes not just for Canada, this goes for banks, and then fined, and then money laundering. Understand, in Canada had done many nefarious things. Basically, hearing it out now actually occurred
Oh,
ago,
man.
and now it's coming out in the public. Okay, so all into perspective, is forefront. Please take good. Of course, us all he's had some very reliable running well. So all you about gurus like that as well. I speak to about Bruce. Bruce.
I don't know what to do, you guys.
Is called the other day, and the one that he's just done. And believe you me, it pretty much lines up. Now, I don't normally endorse or encourage anything like that, but his information regarding Canada in that spiel is pretty much spot on, okay, from what I can understand. So let's have a look at your 5 major banks. Obviously, you're fairly new because I will now repost now the banking and the wealth management systems of Canada and many other countries. So if you want to search in the search engine of a channel and just type in the banks that you're looking at for your wealth management services, so to speak, because they are service providers. Redemption and redeeming doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be at a bank. Hence, the bank, they put these stories out to scare you also. Just remember that. So we're not necessarily saying we're going to a bank per se for your redemption or exchanges. They may utilize the banking services of that being the buildings and things like that to make it easier for logistics to tap in to their banking system, so as they can give you the rates and things like that as well. I hope that makes sense, CA. Okay. So the stories that you're hearing about the banks, please do not get caught up in the fear. This is just the ramifications of what they have done to bring that to your attention. Whenever there is chaos, like the war that is going on right now, is the cover story for the resetting of or rebooting of your finance sector. So get excited on the other side of this, because if they're actually ripping out the banks in Canada and 3 of your 4, 5 major banks are getting done for money laundering, I'm pretty darn excited that they're actually advertising that in your country, because that tells me that it's bringing it to your attention and to the attention of those who are not in the 1% group of holding currencies and following all of this. So that's the first part. The second part is Scotia Bank is not an endorsement, but one of my favourites out of all of them. They are, I believe, are going to be part of or play a significant service role in the redemption process. Again, we sit back for safety and security. We will wait and see what the information that comes out regarding the process of our redeeming and exchanging of what we hold. Okay, but Scotia Bank was one of those banks that I did look into. So yeah, but don't
I started at 4.
don't get too round up about the banks. The banks in the background, believe it or not, as I said, have been transformed. They're not operating like they used to. If you look back even 6 months ago or 12 months ago, these banks were not operating as they were previously. So there's this is just the ramifications of what they had done previously. I personally don't get concerned because, but yeah. So I hope that helps. CA, you can unmute yourself if you have any other further questions now, Don. So, but anyway, just wanted to point the generalization of that. So.
Thank you, Mel. Really appreciate it. One more question, if you don't mind. We keep hearing on and off about the med beds. And we don't know. Some people say that the med beds are going to be where we go to our appointments. We'll be able to ask for our appointments. And some people are saying it's not going to happen till later. Now, I don't know where I'm going with who to trust, but I'm just waiting for the process to actually start. Do you have any information at all in regards to that? Thank you.
Perfect. And I tell you what, legend, I'm so glad you brought that up, because I wanted to give some clarity. Sometimes I get very emotional and people sort of take what I say a little bit off the track. Med beds are real. They are here, but not on the planet. They are off planet. Okay? Now, I utilize what I can substantiate when it comes to med beds, and people get very...
Well, what do you guys think of that news? So that they are real, but not on the planet. Ah.
have to stop putting that perspective in our mind and in our hearts that, oh, we're just going to wait for the med beds. We've been waiting for years for the med beds as well. There's another side to this. How many years have we been waiting for them? That's the tough gig, ladies and gentlemen. How long are we going to wait for a med bed? Lives are still being lost. So I do everything in my power to make sure that if I can find something to substantiate or to help with the transition whilst we're waiting, then that's what I will do. It's not perfect. I keep saying to people, I am not perfect, but at least I'm giving you some kind of direction to have a look at. You may find other things that can assist you whilst you are actually physically waiting for the med beds. There is nothing coming from any of my sources to say that you're going to have a med bed appointment at your redemption and exchange. So I don't know where these people get the substantiating information from. Remember what a rumor and hearsay is. It's like Chinese whispers. Sometimes we create things in our imaginary mind hoping that we're going to be right. But I can't substantiate that, CA. I really can't. I look for what I have available on Earth until such time as we are going to that actual med bed. So hopefully that helps. But med beds are real, ladies and gentlemen. Believe you me, they are real and they do exactly what you want them to do. But in the transition period, let's focus on what we can deal with right now whilst we're waiting. That's my opinion on all of that. So thank you, CEO, for bringing that up.
Thank you, Mel. Really appreciate it. God bless you. Have a wonderful day, and thank you for all that you're doing. Take good care.
Absolutely. And stay in contact with me, PM me, and you can start sending me some news from Canada because I don't get a lot. I don't get enough from Canada. So please do.
Absolutely.
So, absolutely.
Take care.
Okay,
Bye-bye, Mel.
thank you, champion. And hello to everyone in Canada, because I know that they often feel as though they are left out. But Tribal Power, are you ready to rock and roll?
Yes, I'm ready now, Mel. I worked out how to unmute myself.
It's a tricky one, isn't it? When you first when you become a virgin. Yeah, so.
Yeah. First of all, thank you so much for everything you do. You're just amazing.
Oh, that's all right.
So I tell everyone you're the smartest woman in Australia. So it'd be great to see you run for Prime Minister. Anyhow.
Oh, yeah, you never know your luck. I do have a Trump pen now, so you just never know your luck, honey.
You're in
You never
line.
know your luck.
My question is, the other day I heard you mention that at this stage you've heard that there are going to be 3 redemption centres, 2 in Brisbane and 1 in Sydney, right? Now, I'm just wondering, at one stage we were hearing that the only way you could cash in your Zim was to go to an actual redemption centre. Is that still the case?
Well, again, I was talking in the car today, actually, with one of my admins, and I said to my admin, I said, every time I get asked about the Zim, something different changes. It really is. It's one of those ones. It's like, oh, and I get into strife sometimes because people want answers, and I simply don't have the direct answer.
Yes,
so there is so many elements to it. Now, there is other elements too. Oh, geez, I don't know if I should go down this track because it might cause a bit of chaos. I don't want people to panic. Okay, there is talk of the Zim bonds per se being redirected as they were through the admirals groups. Apparently, they have to be authenticated and what have you. So I have got some instructions on that. Again, they're not clear instructions, but they may, thing. I've heard many other stories along this journey that I know that when the Zim bonds, that being the AA and the AB, were actually first originally printed, you've got to remember the citizens burnt a lot of them because they weren't worth anything.
No, that's
so
right.
I know. My understanding is, I was sharing with admin today that they actually burnt that many of them, that they actually reprinted some, and those will be those that were reprinted will be accepted at the redemption. So yeah, again, Zim bonds has always been that one. There's been hoo-ha over it.
Yes.
We're looking at, I'm going to put this in perspective because this just came into my mind, tribal power, while I was talking to you just then. Let's have a look at the so-called whale that's been redeemed. Okay, and I'm sure this person would have Zim bonds. Let's just assume that they did have at least one. They're talking about the billions and millions that this person has been released in the funds. Millions, I think it was. I don't think it was billions. It may have been billions. But anyway, it wasn't trillions.
Okay.
Do you see my point?
Yes.
I'm taking some guru's information and I'm going, oh, hello, ladies and gentlemen, because tribal power, I've actually said many times that the Zim bonds were for those of the citizens inside the country.
Yes.
Right? And rightly so. Will we benefit from it? Yes, we will. But it seems like the information that I had said, I think about 6 months ago, turns out to be pretty close to the mark by the looks of things, because I said it's an 80-20 rule. 20% you keep and 80% goes back into the country to support the country. Because when you're talking to people from Botswana, and happy birthday to Noma from Botswana, by the way, when you're talking to a family from Botswana and they don't have food in their house and they can't hold currencies, how are they going to benefit from the Zimbabwe bond and everything else when they don't hold currencies?
Yes.
That currency has to go back to those countries. This is my
fair
point.
enough. Yes.
Isn't that logical? Isn't that fair?
Exactly.
There has to be some fairness about this. So I'm taking the logic approach and having a look at what we've just been released in the information in the guru world, is that this person's got 8 million, he's got 18 million or something that's going to be released on Friday. Oh, the millions, not trillions?
Yes.
Do you see my point? How much is going to be enough? But understand this, and the good side of this is that the currencies, even the Australian dollar per se, is going to be revalued or reinstated. So it's going to be worth a lot more too, isn't it?
Yes.
So that's 20% of that 100T note is still going to be exceptional. It's going to be exceptional. So when we put all of this in perspective, when it comes to the Zim bond, as I said,
so far so good, you guys?
they're back in. They're back on the road again. They haven't been there since late December, but the contacts are that they are back on the road doing some testing. I can tell you this much: there was another 5 currencies that were added to the screens in Australia just the other day. So
great.
So as I said, there's still a couple that aren't there that we actually were encouraged to hold, but I'm thinking they may peg to like dinar, lira, real. They could certainly peg through that if they're not already on the screen. But yeah, there was 5 others that came up on the screen. There might be 6 actually. My bad. I think there might have been 6 that came up. So again, looking forward to it. We just let this roll, sit back, relax, and watch it unfold. And as the instructions come through, honey, we'll be all informed. So
because the reason I asked about it as well is because I'm currently living in Cairns, and I was planning, because I'm planning to move to Melbourne, I was going to go to Melbourne and do the exchange there. And I thought to myself, well, if I have to, I do have some Zim, and if I have to go, say, to Sydney or somewhere first, that's what I was saying. Will we find all that sort of thing out? Will we know what we're doing? I know you said go to a currency exchange place. They will tell you where to go. So that's mainly why I was asking. You know, do I have to go somewhere else first before I go to Melbourne? And also about people who may not have the money to travel, you know, if they can only go certain places, you know.
Absolutely.
And that's why I thought there's got to be more that comes out as this continues on, because they have to allow for people like that who need to travel and so forth.
100%. And I've actually said previously too, they could certainly say, for instance, you have 2 Vietnamese dong notes. Say if you've only got 2, okay? You could go and cash one of those in at a currency exchange to give you the funds to go to the redemption centre to get the other one sorted or whatever, to set up your accounts and all that sort of stuff. So
because there was always that fear
about
because there was always that fear. Everybody was being told, oh, you can't double dip, you know, you can't go in twice, you know, all that sort of thing was going around. But I realised people could probably do that as well. So
absolutely. It's not double. It's not double dipping, ladies and gentlemen. No. It's not double dipping. It's and that's why I said I don't believe there's other baskets. A lot of people still think there's baskets. I don't.
No.
With the system, the way it's set up. I mean, years ago when Kuwait and that happened, I can understand that they created the theory of there will be other baskets. But with the computerized system that we have now, and the fact that it's completely global and that every single country is pretty much on a quantum system, they're all going to go at the same time. They're going to flip the switch for everything. So I'm just using logic on that. As I said, if I get it wrong, I'm going to take it on the chin. I don't mind taking it, taking a rap every now and again over the knuckles, but logic tells me that it's all going to go at the same time. So, like I said, to see
pretty right so far, Mel.
I know. Funny you should say that. I actually, when I rang Perth the other day, and I was talking to my group in Perth, and it's like, Mel, everything that you said 2 years ago, and I'm like, oh, please don't give me a big enough head swell. I got a bigger head as it is now. I was like, oh my God. But again, like I said, it's based on logic. I'm no egotistical maniac by any means, but I have fun with it. I've actually had a lot of fun with it, and I think that's been the exciting part, to be honest, is the fact that I've kept it as real as possible, kept it with fun, if I get it wrong, well, hey, we just laugh about it and move on to the next one.
We're
So
all human, aren't we?
we certainly are. This is a real girl, real deal. So, but and a big shout out to Cairns as well. I was actually born in Cairns, apparently.
were you?
Apparently, I was born in Cairns. Yeah. So
Oh,
I
right.
say apparently
Okay.
because I don't have a birth certificate that proves anything
No.
else. But anyway,
That's
so
fine.
but apparently I was. So.
Oh, good. Look, thanks so much for answering those questions.
My
Mel.
pleasure.
Really appreciate your
Absolutely.
time. Thank you so much.
Not a worries. Ruben. I think who did I? Yeah, allowed to speak. Ruben and Buckle Up Buttercups. I think we've spoken before. I don't think we've had hello for a while. Ruben, are you there?
Yeah, hello. Hello, Mel.
Hello, Ruben. How are you? You good looking lad?
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, I just saw your picture popping up as I hit the thing. I thought, oh, what's doing? Whereabouts are you from?
Sydney.
Oh, really? Another Australian. I love you Aussies. I leave Australia for 5 minutes and then I get more Australians than I ever have. So knock yourself out, sunshine.
Yeah, I just wanted to know your thoughts on FCB because he seems to put it down on Sarah Jassara.
Who was that, love? Sorry, you cut out a bit.
FCB. Your thoughts on FCB?
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. So he's a decoder, isn't he?
Yeah, he puts it down on.
No, he was, yeah. I've seen a few of his shows actually. I haven't seen him in the last 10 months, but he was a very big decoder actually. Is he still around? Is he? I haven't seen him popping up for a while.
Yeah, he's still around. He puts a downer on Nasara Jassara. Do you know anything about that?
Oh,
Why
well,
he would do that?
Again, people get very emotional, mate. So, Ruben, as I always say, we get into this, and that's why the only show I've ever done outside of my own is with Holly Solanano, okay? And the reason I don't do other things is because as human beings, Ruben, we get very stuck, and he's conformed to his own bias. He has confirmation bias. So if something doesn't turn out, he goes, oh, it's not real. And I'm not talking about him per se. It happens across the board. We're humans. When something doesn't go how we think it's going to go, then we just go on this, it's easier to point the finger and go on the whole hate thing. But there's another lady in Australia, I can't remember her name, Ruben, and she came out and she was like, oh, this Nasara Jassara thing's bullshit. Well, she recently came out several months ago and said that, oh, I actually have to relook at this. And she said, I think this is actually legit.
Right.
I can't remember her name. She was very out there and very negative on Australian sovereignty and banking and systems and stuff like that as well. But people have their own opinion, Ruben, and it's sad to think that he thinks Jassara isn't real. I think Jassara is, like as I said, is going to play out, and it's already played out. I've seen it happen in many countries. It all depends on how you look at things, your different perspective on things. It saddens me to think that he's probably gone down that track. But, I mean, I used to love his decodes, especially back in the early days. And I know that he had a big falling out with his admins, as I have done as well. So, again...
44 minutes, you guys.
Everyone has their opinion, Ruben. To me... I believe in good. I try and stick to as many positives as I possibly can, because if we become conformed to what we think we know, but in actual fact we know fuck all, that's the truth, Ruben.
Yeah.
And I always say I'm happy to take it on the chin if I've just discovered some other new things that I'm working very tirelessly in the background about. And it's going to be a tough one to bring to the table, and that's about lobster wallets. That's going to be interesting. You know, we can hate and hate and hate and hate and hate, but what's this world about? It's not about hate, is it? It's about misunderstanding and lack of knowledge.
Yeah.
It's not that I have the answers. I'm just using that as an example of something that has now changed and altered. And all of a sudden I'm going, oopsie, we better look at this one again, because things have changed, haven't they? Things change all the time.
Yeah.
What we saw, like I said before, what we saw 10 years ago or even 12 months ago was probably not good about lobster. But then we have to revisit that because things have changed. People have left. They've made alterations. It's like buying a business. You restructure it. And I think people are going to be quietly shocked. And it's going to be a tough one to release because, as I said, even I had my concerns over it. I never denied that. But again, like I said, Jassara is real and it's happening. And so, yeah, so follow the pen. That's what I say. But we'll see what happens.
Thank you, Mel. I love your show.
My pleasure. It's good to talk to some counterparts from Australia. Buttercups. We'll see you later, Ruben. Catch you later, sunshine. Buttercups.
Thank you. Bye.
Hi, Mel.
Hello.
Hey,
Gee, it's been a while since we've spoken. Oh, my goodness gracious me.
Yes, it has. And I DM'd you a couple videos a couple weeks ago and you said to bring it up when we come on chat. And last week you came on and I come on at the end, so I wasn't able to bring it up. You were getting off line. But that's okay. You said to mention that when I talked to you, the what was it, Mariposa over in the Philippines, those 3 short videos about yes. Can you touch on that for me a little bit, please?
Well, okay, so we believe the Princess Rodriguez, Elizabeth Rodriguez, Princess, Rodriguez. Yes.
Elizabeth.
Elizabeth, that's it. My bad. Is involved. So those videos that you sent me, I haven't seen them for quite some time, actually. There's many elements to this. And again, I'm not discrediting anyone or anything because I was talking to someone the other day and he believes there's a king of Hawaii. And I said, I thought there was a queen of Hawaii. Just as there is a queen of the Philippines who releases that, certain funds for, of course, the GCR. There's many, many layers to this and many, many, theories on it. But I think I'm starting to see around the world many Princess Elizabeths, so to speak, that hold the key. And I think there's about 4 or 5 keys to the funds that are going to fund it. It's very interesting, Buttercup, because what I just said to Ruben about the lobster wallet, that was actually built, and the behind it was the White Dragon family as well. So I'm going to put that out there. So you set the precedence, girl, when you sent me those videos, because that made me go back and have a look at some of the stuff in history. As I said, occasionally I go back over history, as we did with the February 24th and Russian and Ukraine war, so to speak. So that's interesting. So my perspective on that is, as I believe there's at least 3 keys, and she holds one of the keys apparently to the release of the funds for the global reset, so to speak. So again, as I said, we focused on that one for quite some time. I believe she did a couple of videos with Dr. Kia Pruitt as well. And so, as I said, I think there's several keys to the funds. As I said, I went back and did some massive dives on lobster and the quantum financial system. And boy, did I get, a little rude shock about that. So I think, sweetie, when you sent those videos up, I'm so glad I brought you up. I do remember that now. I have seen them previously. As I said, I don't discredit them at all. I think they have validity, but I think there's actually 2 or 3 keys that we're not probably aware of. As I said, the White Dragon family are part behind the lobster wallet and, of course, the quantum financial system, regardless of what our previous thoughts are on all of that. So we will
And what
wait
I've
and
found out
see.
there, a lot of people haven't realized that, a lot of the royalty was taken from these good people and these families because they didn't want it to get in good hands.
37
So they
minutes,
put it
guys.
in the hands
37.
of the bad people so they could keep this cabal going. So when she found out that she had royalty there and she
All right,
did her
let's end it
digs
with this.
and, now she's claiming it. So
It's
right
been over
on.
3
And
hours.
this is just amazing. I'm related
I
to
wanted to
Ulysses
get
S.
this in
Grant,
tonight.
the
There
18th
you
president here in America. So my family's been awake for a very long time of what's been going on with this. So I'm just happy to be here and experience all this and to see it all come to fruition. It's amazing, guys. Buckle up because this is getting ready to be an amazing ride. And I love your Trump pen.
Thank you, hon. Thank you. There's a little bit more behind that pen as well. So we're going to talk to Jimmy, Dan, and
Trump pen.
JR is in the house. All right, honey, we'll talk to you soon. Keep in touch. Send me some more
Thanks,
good
Mel.
stuff. No
Thank
worries.
you. Love you. And thanks for all you do.
Oh, my pleasure. So we got Jimmy and we got Dan and we've got JR. I just lost you, or did I unmute you? Ooh, I hope I did allow you to speak. So my bad. The finger was hot. So who we got? Jimmy. Hey,
Mel. How you doing?
I'm very well. How are you? More importantly,
I'm hanging in there.
Aren't we all?
Quick question about the med beds. I do believe the technology exists, but if they're only off planet currently, how are we substantiating that they're only off planet? That how are we substantiating that they exist? For that matter.
Okay, that's even a bigger question. Oh, Jimmy, I love these questions. That's what I'm saying, hon. How can we substantiate that? How can we? A lot of what we do, Jimmy, is through faith, isn't it? We do our research and we see this information. But like I said, there was an interesting movie called Asylum that was out and released, and that gives you another perspective on that. The technologies or the patents were, of course, they're in those documents. These are documents of when they actually arrived, Jimmy. Actually, Jimmy, that reminds me. Wow, whilst I'm thinking about medbeds, let me take you for a little journey to the moon for a moment, Jimmy, because we all believe that, of course, we saw a fake moonwalking. But while we were watching the fake moonwalking, what were they discovering on the moon? They've now released, Jimmy, some very interesting articles regarding that there was a 27-minute delay. Whilst we were watching that fake moon landing, there was 27 minutes of on your screen. That often happens to me, but that's okay. And whilst that was going on, they were utilizing 27 minutes on the other side to actually look at some spacecraft or some kind of thing that landed on the actual moon. Now, hence Trump wants to go back to the moon. Is that more disclosure. Putting it out there, Jimmy. Again, do we know, can we substantiate it? I ask the question myself all the time, but I can tell you that there is evidence of it there being there. It's just regardless of whether they actually draw that from the moon or are they already sitting out there on the space UFOs? We will wait and see. So,
okay.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you.
My pleasure, Jimmy. I hope I answered that okay for you, champion.
Yeah, that's fine. Like I said, I
It's a
believe
hard-
that
it's
the
a hard one.
technology. I believe the technology is there. It's just, you know, there's not a lot of people that's actually seen one or been in one. You know.
That's my point, Jimmy. Like I said, I don't discredit it either, mate. And as I said, just hang in there, as I said, and we'll get through this together. We'll get
All
through
right.
this
Thank
together.
you for taking my question.
No worries
Thanks.
at all. Dan, and then we'll have JR. Dan, what's happening? Dan the man. Nope. Has he worked it out yet? All right, Dan. We'll come back to Dan. JR is in the house, ladies and gentlemen. Hello, Junior. How are you?
Hello, Mel. How you doing? Yeah, I just
Man, superb.
I
Dan
actually
just popped up. Sorry, Dan.
yeah, I just was able to catch it because sometimes you start your show. Sometimes I'm not able to get in your live, or I get like just when you're almost hanging up. But
Well, I'm feeling very lucky at the moment. I'm feeling very lucky. Thanks, JR.
So I'll touch on a couple of things for you. Like I live in Canada, so I know a lot about what's going on in Canada, a lot of what's going on in the States and everything. I'm like deep diver like you, but not as you're probably just maybe a little bit more of an extremist than I am. But I follow a lot of patterns and find stuff all through all the holes in the walls, right? So with the med beds, I know somebody personally that actually got that he's actually been in the Tesla med beds, that somebody that he knew actually had the engineering schematics and made improvements on it and used it when he is with his major injuries and able to actually help his injuries and heal them. But the problem is that he was actually going to try to start building just the Tesla med beds. But the problem is a lot of the components that you would actually use in these Tesla med beds, like we're talking 100-year-old technology, they deliberately stopped making certain components. And the only way you can get these components if you know a manufacturer that can make these specific components, but they only want to order 50 or 100,000 parts, like 100,000 or 200,000 bulbs.
Hey,
or
we
whatever
got a
you use
half
of those
hour left,
components.
you
So
guys.
they can't really start manufacturing these Tesla med beds, but they're still not
Wrap
considered
everything up.
off-world med beds that we know that are coming. And with the med beds, people have to understand. I mean, they've always alluded to everything. There's teleportation, there's stargates, all the stuff that can get us to the med beds, wherever they might be, if they're on Earth. I've been hearing there's in Area 51, and the majority of them are hidden there, and they've been building them there because nobody's allowed to go there.
Correct.
So let alone they have for what my understanding, they actually teach. They're teaching the people how to run the med beds in Area 51. So that's just that. I mean, I can go even more in depth than that, but that's just on that side. I mean, there's a lot of the technology that is out the using frequencies and all that technology is now exploding. Being the fact is that Trump signing off the executive order saying that we have the right to try on these components and not being restricted. So that happened last year. Created this big, huge vacuum of this stuff to be public, let alone Trump even posting on his Truth Social about med beds and being that was a public review, a release saying these med beds are truly out in the public and they're there. It's just he's basically red pilling people and trying to put it out there and get people thinking and looking and having be more open-minded to what is actually coming. So so that's just that part. And
I tell you what, well, okay, first of all, JR, thank you very much for all of that. I'm wondering if you would be up. I'm going to put you on the spot here in public. Perhaps you and I should do a Zoom call one day about medbeds.
We can actually have a call and chat, but I don't
prefer not to.
I don't do face to face. I don't face to face. I can do it. We can do it a call. And
oh no, you can. No, you don't have to put your face up there, sunshine. Don't have to put your face up at all. But
I've kept very private. I kept very private because
Oh, rightly so, and rightly so.
Yeah, I've seen what you've gone through in your attacks, and when I was really pushing out in these channels there. I mean, I grew channels into the thousands, multiple. I've lost count of the amount of channels I built, and then because I wasn't getting along with certain mids or the owners of the channels and their egos are getting back, and I just got so tired of dealing with the drama, dealing with everybody's egos. Like I'd rather be hiding in the background, just helping out people.
If you can help me out, honey, I will.
And putting information out there.
Definitely. Yeah. So we can definitely do it. Anyway, back to your news in Canada. Wow. Tell me what's going on.
So with Canada, people have to understand that. I did a wire transfer through a credit union, and the credit union got it there in hours about a year and a half ago. And credit unions back about 5 years ago, 5-6 years ago, would take up to 2 weeks to get it just from Canada to the United States. I did a wire transfer from Canada to a third world country in Asia and was there in a couple hours, showing that a lot of the credit unions were getting ahead of the big tier one banks, because the tier one banks, there's a lot more lifting components to it. But even when you get into the tier one banks, I know for a fact that I've gone in enough tier one, let alone banking is changing currencies, let alone banks used to have big long tellers, like where you'd walk up to go pay your bills, to move money around.
26 minutes
with a bank teller. Now walking along major banks, you could walk in there and the bank teller areas have got whole size, and they've fully expanded wealth managing offices.
Claire, we had an hour and a half. We're down to 26 on this
personal basis
for tonight. I did some intel before.
They're preparing
Happy
for
Thursday.
this. Attempted to start digging deeper into talking to directors and top wealth management in the banks, but and the high level finance stuff that I am knowledgeable about. I've talked to high level, like we're talking wealth exec managers and all that. They didn't understand some of the stuff that I knew. Being the fact that Canada is such a minuscule of what the United States is for currency holders. I think especially, and of all the years been on Telegram, about maybe 50 people that have actually spoken up or stated that they're from Canada, that they would admit that they're in Canada, and that so when you look at, there's only maybe say we're going to say maybe 500 people in Canada. There's 40 million people in Canada. So the amount of people in the high level executives and managers in the banking world, there might be maybe one or two executives that will know. Compared to down the States, you have maybe 20, 30 million people that have currencies. So of course, there's a lot more bankers at the lower levels. They're starting to find out this currency exchange is about to happen. But in Canada, it's still until we're like probably 7 hours out, you'll start hearing bank talk what's going on in currencies.
Yeah.
And I've been managers talking to bank tellers, asking if they've done switches or they're changing their offer and their back end systems to how they manage their funds. And they've been slow, and there's some stuff happening. And I haven't done it for the last about 6 months to a year because I know what's happening is just, the fact the population so limited. So they're and then people that are in the banking world that would know what's going on in the currency world is also down to like 0.1%. So people have to understand that.
Oh, 100%, JR. Yeah. And I do apologize. There was actually military helicopters going over the top while JR was speaking, so you couldn't make it up if you tried. But what JR was basically referring to is of course, the number of currency holders in Canada versus America. That's why it's more knowledge about these wealth management systems and stuff because of the high volume of currency holders they hold here in the US. We saw the same thing in Australia. Understand that in Australia, as I said, I spoke to 37 different types of managers in one state, and I only found one of those 37 that knew or understood about what the currency revaluation and that was all about. So that's what JR was referring to, ladies and gentlemen. But what a great honour it is to have him in the house, that is for sure. So, so I'm just going to scroll down, make sure that I'm not missing too many people. Terry Awakening, let's say hello to you. And if, yay. And Chris.
Take care, Mel. I'm going to let you go, but it was great talking to you.
Absolutely, darling. Yeah, we'll definitely catch up after. Thank you. So, yeah, there we go. Fixing it all up. So, Chris. Oh, sorry, Chris. I'll allow you to speak as well. Who else have we got up here? And Carol B is in the house. Hello, Carol. There we go. Dan. There we go.
Hey,
Dan,
Larry.
you're up. Sorry, Chris. We'll go to Dan
caller.
first because he was in the way. How are you, champion?
Caller from
All right. I don't mind waiting.
Oh, you don't mind waiting? Well, that's good.
I just wanted to get up and tell you that I love you so much, and you did so much for me personally. And I'm coming from Israel, and this is a terrible place to be. Yeah, and this is harsh few years. And I follow your voice for years through Telegram places. And just recently, I saw your face for the first time, and I was so excited in some YouTube show with a wonderful blonde, and then I saw you for the first time, and I was so excited, and I find your group, and I just wanted to tell you that you're doing an unbelievable job for me, and you're connecting the dots in many ways, and you're very authentic compared to so many people that are trying to push narratives, they want to make it up. You're just being very authentic, and it's not always easy to hear, but it's helping us with patience, with patience, And
It
it's a
is.
very big lesson for all of us, I feel, in the last few years, probably maybe 7, 10 years for some of us, maybe 15. And I just wanted to tell you that maybe you don't know that your voice has been hearing in so many places, and it's touching so many hearts in such a dark times all
Now
over.
I have
But
an Israeli boyfriend. Oh my gosh.
and I just wanted to tell you that for me personally, I'm doing everything in a reverse engineering.
Wow.
So my heart knows what will happen, and my brain, sometimes it's hard to connect the dots. But in 2035, only like 9 years away from now, I will visit you maybe in 5 seconds in a flying car, and we're all going to be together, and so many things will be, so many things will be. But for now, I'm just sharing my love and thanks, and that's it.
My pleasure. Beautiful, Dan. And I hope you've appreciated the news coming out of Israel and the Bank of Israel just the other day. I posted as well. So
maybe
so
you
my
will
energy and
remind it to
frequency.
me somewhere, because over here it's look dark than ever.
Yeah, I know it does. But believe you me, Dan, as I said, I do keep an eye on the Bank of Israel. It's another long-winded story. Not a conspiracy, but you are last for a reason, and I'm starting to see more and more good things come out of Israel. And of course, we'll talk further about that. That is for certain.
Thank you. So just maybe want to share, though, there is a huge difference between the awareness of the Israelis and the Israeli government and cabal that running us. But now everyone is seeing it. Everyone's seeing it, but still everybody's very afraid. You need to understand that Israel is...
And I'm not afraid, Dan. I would have you in a heartbeat. I would come over there if I could. And so that is a really lovely reminder. Dan, that is a beautiful reminder, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you, Dan, for all of that. It is a reminder, ladies and gentlemen. Bye for now. Yeah, for sure. And that is a beautiful reminder, ladies and gentlemen. It's the cabal that's running it, not the people. Do not criticize the people.
Oh, my God.
The beautiful Chris, and then, of course, Terry Awakening. We'll say hello to Terry in a moment. But, Chris, what's been happening in your part of the world?
17
well,
minutes.
hi, Mel. You look great. So, obviously, the States are doing good for you.
Oh, thank you.
A lot of
good
stuff.
I might be a little bit late on board, but I got a couple of notes in my hand. I'm in Australia.
That's okay, darling.
Gold Coast, North New South Wales. Got 100 and a 20, and they are different. They look like rainbow currency to me. 100 has a new holographic window to the left high and bottom low and right through the center, and the 20 is similar. 100's got an owl, and the 20's got a kookaburra, and they're similar but they're different. Do you think this could possibly be our new rainbow currency?
Could be, quite possibly. Interesting. Yes.
Interesting. I haven't seen a 50 or a
dear
05, but...
Well, it doesn't terrify me, Chris. What it is that you're obviously on the right path, and if you find these things, certainly send them to me. But yes, I do believe I know what you're talking about, and I have seen them. I must go back and see if I can find the link in our Australian Treasury, and repost those new what we call rainbow notes.
I'm excited.
Yeah, that's okay. Send us the link, and credit where credit's due, ladies and gentlemen. Well done to you, Chris. Well,
will do. Thank you, Mel. Good. Keep it up. Love
okay.
Your work.
You too. Thanks, honey. To the beautiful Terry Awakening. What's Terry up to? Awakening soul. I love that.
Good evening, Mel. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. How are you? More importantly, the most important person here right now is you. So
my
take
life
it
is
away.
awesome. Life is good.
It is certainly good.
My question, Mel, and hopefully you can shed some light on this. You know, you listen to Mark Z, you listen to all these other gurus out there, and you know, me personally, I don't listen to anybody anymore. I might listen to Mark Z every once in a while, and I really love your shows because you talk about the fundamentals, you talk about the spiritual side of things, and I think it's all tied together. But I'm hearing more and more about certain groups, you know, the Admirals group, the General 64 group, you know, the CMKX, prosperity packages. And, you know, Simon Parks came out in the video today, you know, talking about things about, you know, if you're really not tied to a certain group, you know, and within these groups, it's organized, it's structured to help bring your projects to fruition, you know, and it seems to me that a lot of these groups are talking about service to others, and that really speaks to my heart. And my question is, you know, the Tier 4B group we all been told about in Dinar Land, it doesn't really exist in the banking sector, and it was kind of made up. And my question is there's so many beautiful people that are in this movement that think that there is a Tier 4B, and they're going to be able to go walk into a bank or redemption center and get this astronomical numbers. Like, people think they're going to get hundreds of millions and billions of dollars. And don't you think that's just impossible to happen? Because people need to be educated. They need to have structure to help them, guide them through the process to bring their projects to fruition. I just can't see everybody getting billions and millions of dollars with no structure in place to help guide them. I mean, you know, I remember listening to your show a while ago, and you talked about this currency was for the in country, for the people themselves. It wasn't about us being enriched ourselves. It was about helping those countries to be beautiful and grow and prosper. And so I'm how do you explain that, where people, when they go to their appointment, they're not going to be disappointed? I mean, are they going to be grateful for what they got?
Yeah, Terry, I feel your sincerity going through this right now. From the moment you spoke, I just felt some calmness around. I just wanted to share that little bit for you, first of all. The second part of that is let's have a look at the actual structures that have occurred. So this has been around for quite some time, and that's why you hear about all these Admiral groups and the 64 groups and all of these groups. They were formed long time ago on the onset of the Q80 revaluation, this, that, and all the rest of it. And you're spot on, Terry. There's only two tiers. There's tier 1 and tier 2. And even Mark Z. I'm going to put him in the spotlight here, only because he's come out and admitted it. The rest were created. That's coming from Mark, by the way, not me. Don't shoot the messenger. So the tier 1 and tier 2 are the two levels of banking, Terry. So you're spot on that one. And what you're feeling, mate, is what a lot of people are feeling. They struggle with this uncertainty because it doesn't resonate. It doesn't make logical sense to you, Terry. If it doesn't make logical sense, that's why I come on and I say, I'm just trying to use logic in all of this. Now, it's not a bad thing what they've done, but now we actually have tier 3. We have tier 4A. We have tier 4B. And I saw the other day a tier 4C and a tier 5. So they've now extended it. They grew the tree. The little apple tree is now gigantic wisdom. It frustrates me to no end, because back in the day, as I said, when this was all formed by these groups, back in the day, Terry, and other people that are struggling with this whole tier 5 and all that sort of stuff, people will still, I remember when I spoke about that, Terry, I got hammered. People said, there is 5 tiers, Mel, and these are the 5 tiers. And I go, I know of them. I'm aware of them. But it doesn't make any sense, because the tiers were created way back,
Almost over.
in the whole scheme of things, to create it and make it more understanding for you, the public, for us, I should say. But it doesn't make it factual. It just is that they created it.
Chico.
So they create these things, and now we have a full C. And it's like, oh, my gosh, when's this going to stop? People just create things to create their own drama, their own conforming bias, as we so to speak. So they created them, Terry. They just create them. I don't know why. Because as the system has changed, so back in the day, 20 years ago, when they created these tiers 3 and 4 and 5, they were created to make it simplified for those people. But the system has changed, but they haven't changed. They haven't alterated their conforming bias to understand that this is now a quantum system. And they all go at the same time. Technically, they go at the same time. What's happened is that we're seeing these little project monsters that are coming out and saying, well, we've got liquidation, but we're not going to get our money cleared until Friday. And I go, oh, why? It's a quantum system. It should be available for you. I don't understand what's going on. I don't have explanations about why they are liquid but they can't use their money. I can't explain that. Ask the person. Find the person who has got their liquidity and ask them, because I certainly can't explain that, Terry. And as I say, if it's not happening to me, I don't really give 2 hoots. But I can tell you now, Friday's a good day to do something. Do they release the whole lot all at once on Friday? Are they test dummies? They could be test dummies for all I know. I don't know. But Terry, you're right. The logic behind the tier 4A, 4B, and 4C and 5,
7 minutes.
I don't understand the logic behind it. That may have been effective 20 years ago or 10 years ago or even 5 years ago.
Tomorrow we'll be back to normal, 5 o'clock.
But everything has changed. And I've had to change my thoughts and my patterns. And I look at things and I go, oh, maybe we shouldn't have jumped the gun on that one. And that's what we do, Terry. It's like we were talking to Ronnie before about FCB. I mean, God bless him for doing what he does. But now he says that Jasara's not real. Well, that's his problem, not my problem. Don't make something, Terry, your problem when it's not your problem. Focus on what you can substantiate, what makes logical sense, and everything else will fall into place. Because the rest of it is faith, isn't it? It's faith that we know that it's coming. We can see the fundamentals, and that's why I say focus on the fundamentals, because that's what gives us substantiation of that it is actually going to happen, because it has happened before. We've seen many currency revaluations. We've seen China revaluate, Japan, we've seen Kuwait, we've seen many different countries. Greenland, Iceland have also revalued as well. Greenland, I love Greenland. So there is many things that, yes, we can question, but question those people. Don't, you know, I don't, like I said, I don't follow them. As I said earlier in the show, what Bruce was saying about Canada, I was quite relieved, to be honest, because quite often they don't talk about other countries. It's all about the states. I know that Bruce, I will give credit where credit's due, has come out and said that other countries may not get 800 numbers, and I agree with him now. But for years, they've all said, no, all the countries are going to get 800 numbers. Some countries don't even have phone systems in place. Many countries don't still have internet. So how's this going to work with this whole 800 and internet emails? I don't understand, because it didn't make logical sense to me. It wasn't a criticism at the gurus. They only know what they know. They've conformed to what they know. It's not a bad thing. We all have an opinion. So Terry, go within, focus on what you know and what works for you, and the rest, it doesn't matter. It really doesn't, Terry. And that goes for anyone else, Terry. So congratulations, Terry, for coming out and sharing your thoughts, because people have those thoughts all the time. I get asked those questions all the time, darling. So, so I hope that helps, sweet. I hope it helps.
It does, Mel. I mean, I found my soul tribe, and I found my place within this movement, and you know, I'm at peace in my life with the choices that I've made. I feel like I'm divinely guided. You know, my heart goes out to the people that they don't have all the information, and you know, and that's why I asked you, like, how the number is 10 million people are in this movement of currencies, and you know, if everybody that holds currency thinks they're going to go to a certain place, this or that, and they're going to get hundreds and hundreds of millions or billions of dollars, like, how does that actually work? You know, would that not, you know, let's imagine one state, for example, you know, there's 5,000 people, they're going to be multi-billionaires, and I mean, do they have the education to maneuver that money to benefit that state? I mean, they could collapse certain systems. There's a lot of, do you see what I'm saying? That there's so much more to this than just getting money. There's discipline. There's education to do things the correct way, not to offset the balance of things. And that's where my heart is, Mel, is how do we help everyday people, you know, to guide them through that?
Well, Terry, please find note too, darling, that there is actually, I have noted, I should go back and have another look, about there is actually free education programs that are actually available for people, especially even the veterans. Of course, they're going to receive further income increases as well. And there is actually free financial services that they have been running around the country here in the US. For all of those as well, Terry. I think, again, it comes down for the eyes to see and the ears to hear, that there is things available to assist people moving forward. And I believe that's one of the things that we will continue to do here on the show, is to help educate people and navigate, you know, to look after this greatest transfer of wealth. It's going to be very overwhelming when it does happen. And it will happen, Terry. And as I said, go within, stay calm, stay collected. And as I said, there's many other elements to this. Whilst you were talking, my mind just went straight to, you know, countries of Africa. And it is a really tough situation. And but yeah, everyone has an opinion, everyone has an idea, and whatever resonates with you is what's most important, because you're the one that's going to be living with your wealth. And that's a wealth not just of currencies, but your spiritual wealth and that as well. So, but Terry, you take care of yourself, and thank you for sharing your thoughts and concerns. And as I said, I'm sure other people have had those same feelings, and yeah, hopefully we can continue to navigate through all of that. So But ladies and gentlemen, it is way past what I expected this evening. Boy, did we have some fun earlier on.
Okay. That was the Wacky Wednesday show from her from last night. Our next one won't be till Sunday. Probably Sunday. Chico. So we did some intel halfway through. You guys at the beginning and stuff. I did Billy and a few other short ones. So back to normal tomorrow. 5, we do the regular shows, 2 hours. Unless something breaks. Thanks, Kay. Kay was, I think, resting tonight. Tim, Lucy, JJ, and God bless everybody of all. God bless all. Please hit the like and stay safe, stay strong, keep the faith, and never give up. Signing off till tomorrow night, 5, unless something develops. Have a good Friday. We'll see you around dinner time. Signing off, Chico and Dude.